Hello and welcome to Too Fast, Too Forever. There's all kinds of family, we chose this one. It's episode 176, Shogun Assassin from 1980. I'm Joey Lewandowski.
I'm Joe too, and this episode is brought to you by COS and their Geo 180 Outdoor Bathtub. The Geo line is a range of products that reinvents bathtub design in morphological terms, created to define new forms for basins of water and reinvent the bathroom ambiance. Shout out to COS. If you want to check them out, you can go to stylepark.com.
Well, shout out to Kaz and welcome to Too Fast, Too Forever. After the break, we're kicking off a 3-episode, 3-location crossover event with the resident historian Mike Manzi himself. We are doing Shogun Assassin here. We are doing Lone Wolf and Cub Part 3 on his show and Lone Wolf and Cub Part 4 on our Patreon. So if you're not a member there yet, go do that now because this will not be complete. I mean, we're not going to complete either way because there's 6 of these movies, but we're only doing 4 of them. But if you want to make sure you get all the Lone Wolf, all the Cub action, toofast2forever.com. But Joe, extracurricular activities, what have you been up to since we last spoke?
Oh, I have a lot of media things to talk about. One last night was the first half of the finale of Temptation Island. It was delightful. I was super excited about it. They kind of cut it at the middle of the bonfire at the end. You know, they left us on a cliffhanger of what's going on. That will continue next week, so I'm excited about that. Rachel and I have been blowing through Oscar movies getting ready because of what the Oscars is Sunday, right? As we're recording.
Probably. I have no idea. It seemed like based on past updates, you have been doing one a week.
We were, but we did a bunch more in the past week as we're getting closer. So we watched The Father with Anthony Hopkins, which was a really weird movie.
I've not seen that one yet. That's the only one I've not seen. I'm probably not going to see it, I don't think.
It's super depressing. I think you'd like it in that sense. It's kind of
I don't like depressing things just because they're depressing. I know what that's about.
Good.
I don't need adults tending to their dying parents.
It's more interesting than that for sure. It's definitely one that I've thought of the most about since we've watched it, honestly.
Interesting, okay.
And that I don't like depressing movies. It's not overtly depressing. It's just has a somber tone because of what you talked about, right? The giant premise is she's taking care of her dad who has dementia.
Mm-hmm.
So that one was surprisingly good in a weird way. We watched Judas and the Black Messiah and The Trial of Chicago 7. We didn't know, but are the same story. I mean, not the same story, but two sides of the same story, kind of.
Sure, except one is good and one is not good.
Which one didn't you like?
Well, Trial of Chicago 7 is okay, but Judas and the Black Messiah is awesome.
Rachel really likes Trial of Chicago 7. I really liked Judas and the Black Messiah because it had so many of our favorite actors in it, right? The Trial of Chicago 7 has a really great cast too. It's super stacked, both of them. But yes, they're both about Chicago in the late 60s and the riots and all of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Super timely and appropriate. They were all good. You're right though. I personally really, really like Judas and the Black Messiah. I thought it was an excellent movie.
So how many more Best Picture noms do you have to go through?
We saved Sound of Metal based on your recommendations, and we love Riz Ahmed, so we have Sound of Metal left. That's the only one we got left on our list.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah,
You're
and
almost there.
we were saving it because we were we have a strong suspicion we're really gonna like this one, so we were we did Promising Young Woman first, which everybody said was going to be great, and we were saving Sound of Metal to be if we need to rinse the taste out of our mouth of anything else.
Well, I mean, it's pretty heavy. It's not it's just a fun movie.
I'm sure. It just seemed like something that we would like. We actually started the first 2 minutes of it at one point, and we were you know what, let's save this because this looks like something that we will enjoy. Not enjoy ha ha ha, this is amazing and incredible.
Well, I mean, the first 2 minutes of it are him drumming at a badass metal show, right? And it's it quickly changes from that.
I'm sure, but yes, okay. And then lastly, Netflix brought The Circle back, which was the show that we
I saw Kate Hudson tweeting about it.
Yes. They're all in a house, and they can only interact with everybody via this fake social media that they have. They're in season 2, so I feel it's having this thing where a lot of reality TV kind of game shows things that are based off Survivor, right? On a long enough timeline but now it happens really, really quickly, is that people realize it's a game. They start playing the game as they come into the house, which I don't find as enjoyable. When we saw the first part, the first season of The Circle, it's they don't really know what the direction it's going to go to or how this game is structured, so everybody's kind of playing fresh. But if you've seen it, then they know that they need to do this thing, and if they win this, then they're safe, and all this kind of stuff. In that sense, it's kind of disappointing. But in the other sense, because they're on season 2, they're doing like wacky ass surprises. No spoilers for anybody that's going to watch it, but if you did, they're adding like really crazy people to the house, right? Because they can, or people that you know from other things. So that was kind of cool. Yeah, and the new episodes came out last night, so I think we're going to watch that after we record tonight.
Have I told you about, or have you guys watched the TV show from 8 years ago called Siberia?
No, and I don't think you mentioned it either. I don't remember you talking about it.
So Siberia was a show on NBC that was great. It only lasted one season, got canceled because they did not know how to market it. So Siberia was marketed as a reality show wherein 20 people or something go to Siberia in Russia.
Is this the fake reality show?
Yes. So they have to survive the
this.
winter. In like the first or second episode, somebody dies and people are like, oh my God, like what's happening? And so I don't know if they could have done a second season, but like NBC essentially marketed it as
a reality
show and didn't really do the show justice. But that's one of my, I mean, as I've made abundantly clear on here, I'm not a huge reality show person. I would just rather watch something else. But this was interesting in that it's doing, like, it looks like it from the outside, but like absolutely crazy shit is happening. And so it's not necessarily a game, but it's kind of a game. It's like, the most dangerous game, except not really murdering people. It's, just trying to survive.
Yeah.
But it looks like I Googled it. It looks like it's free to watch on Tubi with ads. So
that's cool.
I wasn't sure if it was going to be available anywhere. Like I bought the DVD, like not even the Blu-ray, but I bought the DVD because I'm like, I need to own this because I don't know if this is ever going to be anywhere because it feels like one of those things that like NBC would just like sweep under the rug.
Yes,
but
yes.
It's on Tubi for free, so that's pretty cool.
Isn't NBC Peacock too, so it's not on Peacock, right?
Not according to Google. I don't know.
Weird. Very weird. So yes, so your assumption was right that they kind of sweep it under the rug, right?
Because Tubi is Fox, so I don't know how that happened. Maybe they just bought the rights to it.
They might have done that too. You're right. Yeah.
I have no idea. Anything else of note in the last week?
No. What have you been up to?
I've been watching lots of old movies. Like,
cool.
There's some new movies that I have been not watching, but I've been adding to lists. But obviously watching for this episode. But also I watched finally a James Bond movie that I enjoyed, the George Lazenby On Her Majesty's Secret Service, which is the only one that Lazenby was in, and I think it's great. And like the letterbox people are so like, I feel like a lot of Bond people are Connery people, and a lot of people, like I was reading like recent reviews and they're like, if Connery is in this, it would have been better. I'm like, no man, like it's not, because like I don't like Connery as Bond at all. I think he's like super creepy and like a little rapey and like just of the time and whatever. Like Lazenby is like more physical, and he's getting into these like cooler fights, and we got Telly Savalas as Blofeld, and he's from Kojak, and he's just like a more physical Blofeld, and like everything about this is like cooler, and they have curling in it, like the Olympic sport curling is in it, and I'm like, this is so cool. I like Daniel Craig ones better, but I'm finally 6 or 7 into this. I think 6 in, and I finally have one. I'm like, oh, I actually enjoyed this. I mean, it's long as hell. It's way too long. It's like 2 hours and 20 minutes, but I really like that.
Yeah.
I've also, so the Criterion Channel, which has all of the Lone Wolf and Cub movies to stream, they have a collection because it's not only Criterion movies, they also just have like other stuff too. Like it's a lot of Criterion movies, but they also just curate collections. And they have a new collection that's called The Gamblers, and it's all these like classic gambling movies from like the 40s through the 90s.
That sounds fun.
And so a week or two, probably 2 weeks ago now, I watched this movie, California Split, by Robert Altman, that stars George Segal and Elliot Gould, and it's great. And so that sort of sent me down this path of like Altman movies and gambling movies. And so last week I watched The Long Goodbye, which is a LA detective story with Elliot Gould, which is an Altman movie. And then I watched The Gambler with Sonny Corleone, James Caan himself, which is a gambling movie. And I'm cherry picking movies that I know that I'm going to like, but there's something really reassuring and great about watching good movies, right? Like, as opposed to just like, oh, there's just a new movie out that I want to see. Like, most of them, like, I realized today, I was talking to a friend, I'm like, I like most movies, but I wouldn't recommend most movies, if that makes sense. Like, I enjoy watching most things, but like most things I see, I'm like, yeah, you don't have to watch that.
I think it's more descriptive, like, you enjoy the idea of watching a movie. So like any content is good content for you a lot of the time because
well, it depends, but yes, I mean, largely, yeah. I enjoy. It doesn't take much. Like if it's like, oh, like we were talking about the movie The Accountant, where like Ben Affleck plays an assassin with Asperger's, and like I don't think it's a good movie, but like Anna Kendrick's in it, and I love Anna Kendrick. I'm like, it's worth watching for her, but like I wouldn't recommend The Accountant. Like I don't remember The Accountant. I saw it in theaters. I don't remember it, but like it's just like, hey, there's an actress in there I like. It's worth watching, kind of, but like I wouldn't recommend it. So
yeah,
I don't know.
I feel you,
but that's good. And I want to share a very positive customer service experience I had. So I
What? Tell
got
me.
served this Instagram ad for this company called Factor 75. So like there's a lot of companies out there that'll like sell you meal kits, like you're like Blue Aprons,
Yes.
like here's exactly what you need to make this meal, whatever.
Yeah.
Factor 75 is like, here's a meal that we're cooking, we're going to deliver, you just heat it up and eat it. I'm like, cool, that sounds nice,
So
because
pre-made, like just in a
pre-made.
container. Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
And so the offer is you save $100. I'm getting the plan that I'm tentatively currently on is 8 meals a week for $99, I think, which is
pretty
like
decent.
$12 a meal. So like it's not bad on a per meal basis, but it's just like it's like the equivalent of kind of eating out every night, which is maybe expensive. I don't know. Like it's kind of expensive.
No, I mean, granted, I'm in a different position because there's two of us, but like, if we were to get takeout, I'm $40 deep, right? So it makes sense. I get it.
I don't know if I'm going to go up or down or whatever, because like the more meals you do per week, the more it costs, obviously, but the cheaper each meal is
Yes,
per
yep.
thing. So the offer is you save $100 over your first 3 orders. So take 40 off the first, and then 30, and then 20,
Okay.
or not save $90 over the first 3 orders, right?
Okay.
And so I placed my first order, and it arrives yesterday on Tuesday, and I open it up. I'm like, this is so cool, and I'm like, oh, I'm supposed to get 8, and there's 6 in the box. And I call them, and I'm like, hey, so I haven't even taken a bite yet. I don't know if this is good or not, but you messed up. Like there's 2 that are missing.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. She's like, which 2 are missing? I told her, and she's like, oh, okay. She's like, what I'm going to do is I'm going to refund you the price of those 2, which I was like, cool, okay.
Yeah.
And I'm going to give you a half order credit on your next order. So she also credited me $49.50. And so like before I even took a bite of this food, and I had the first one last night, it was good, they won me over by being like, let me bend over. Like, I don't know if this is like standard policy for them, or if it's just because
Customer
it was
retention,
my
you're a new customer.
first, literally the first order they ever got from them was wrong. But I was like, wow, that's actually like really good. Like that's kind of remarkably good.
Yeah. So what'd you eat last night? What was it? What was the
last
first
night was a Parmesan pesto chicken. It was a chicken breast with a pesto sauce and some zucchini pasta. I don't know if you call it zucchini
Zoodles?
pasta.
Zoodles.
Yeah. And some green beans and tomatoes. It was really good. And it
That
was
sounds
actually
good. We make
pretty
something.
decently portioned too.
We make something very similar to that. That sounds awesome.
Yeah. So it's just nice because like
You're
I
one
want
guy.
to eat healthier and I want to eat more diverse
Yes,
stuff, but I have
yes.
zero interest in cooking. This is like, it was literally heat up the oven at 375 for 6 minutes. And
Yep.
it's like, that's it. It's like, it's not even one of those where it's like, oh, it's pre-cooked, but you still have to throw it in the oven for 45 minutes or whatever. It's like, no, just 6 minutes. So I heat it up, wait 5 minutes, whatever, for the oven to heat up, throw it in, ding, done. So
So I say these things a lot. I have like a weird story that we just got into a giant fight with Matt about air fryers. I'm like, if I was here alone and didn't have Rachel, because Rachel does like all of our cooking, there's so many things like this that I would do, because I'm like, you didn't have to go buy basil and chicken and zucchini and then zoodler and everything like this. You just put it in the oven for 5 minutes. You're like, dude, this is fucking perfect for one person. So I agree. I'm happy for you. I'm glad that it
because
worked.
the alternative is like what I also do is like I make a bunch of food.
Yep,
Like I take
yep.
a pound of meat of some kind and like make a pound of ground beef tacos, or
Yep.
like a pound of chicken like seasoned or whatever, or 2 pounds of crock pot chili or whatever, and
Do you
then
wanna
I
eat
just
that
have
for
that
the
for
next
5 or
10
6 days.
days?
Exactly. So it's just like, it's a blend of the two, and I'm not sure if I'm going to keep this, but 1 for 1 so far, and plus customer service. So shout out to Factor 75, not a sponsor, but if you want to sponsor us, if you're listening, please and thank you.
Yeah, please. I would like to try it. Sounds good. That sounds like a really good meal. I'm excited.
Yeah. I don't know what tonight's going to be. I'm going to eat it after we're done here. I got 5 more to choose from, and yeah, we'll see. We have a Patreon page, toofast2forever.com. Shout out to Cassie Wilson, Jake Freer, Ben Milliman, Nick Burris, Alex Ellen, Justin Kleiman, Brian Rodriguez of High School Slumber Party, Haley Gerbies, Wes Hampton, Christian Larson, Jerry Robinson, Dan the Duke, Hayden Renato DiDonato, and Jessica Collins, a.k.a. Montez. Thank you all so very much for supporting us at the $5 level or above. Joe, pick a number between 1 and 8. You have picked 3, 6, and 8, so pick a different number.
1.
Swag and merchandise like t-shirts, stickers, and more. If you sign up for our Patreon, at the $5 level, you get stickers. At the, I don't remember if it's 25 or 30 or 50. I keep changing it, like trying to see if anybody's going to get enticed. Nobody has, but it's the like do a whole lap. Like you'll get a free t-shirt.
Yeah.
Anything. That's also like, that's called the Hernan Reyes tier.
Yeah.
So if you want to channel your inner Brazilian corrupt millionaire, billionaire, whatever, That's basically like, we're going to make weird stuff and you're going to get all of it. So
Yep.
I don't think anybody's ever going to do that. If they do, we have bigger problems like, oh, that kind of messes our scheduling plans. But,
Yep.
we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. I do want to say, though,
What?
and I think most of the Patreon posts get sent as email updates to everybody, but I yesterday put together a new pinned post which has everything you need, because like the old pinned post used to be how to use the Patreon exclusive RSS feed, because like
Yep.
all the bonuses and stuff.
Yep.
But now here, whatever links you want, so like if you want to know where the store is, or our Cage Club hub, or our social, or how to listen on different platforms, or the minute documents, or the quizzes, they're all there in one handy thing. So
That's cool. Very good of you. That's awesome.
I had been meaning to do it for literally months and just hadn't done it because I just didn't think of it. But now here we go. Too fast. TwoForever.com. We also have an email address, family@cageclub.me. And Joe, I said we have a weird email bag.
You did.
It's
You
a
got
weird
me.
email bag, but it's also because it's like from all over the place. And food all over the place.
Yes.
And if I have to tell you, we have 14 things to read.
Okay. Okay. Let's go.
I don't know that any are long. We're going to find out, but this is a lot. So just buckle in.
I think
buckle
Heather
up, strap in.
must have shook some people up by liking 7 so much. I think that's probably what it is.
I think only one is about that, maybe more. I have no idea. We're going to find out.
Okay.
First up from Alex Ellen, subject line spoilers. This was sent in on Friday after we posted. Oh, by the way, patron listeners, patron supporters get episodes early. So Alex, I know a couple of people listen on Friday when it drops.
Pretty quick, yeah. A couple
Which is
do.
awesome. And so he listened and sent this in. So he sent in spoilers, question mark, because I was like, hey, I'm not watching the trailer.
Yep.
Don't spoil things.
Yes.
So he says, and this is, buckle up, Joe, this is a trigger warning, Snape kills Dumbledore.
Okay. Dude, that is one of my favorite internet moments of all time. The video of the kid driving around to Barnes & Noble at midnight, just yelling Snape kills Dumbledore 485, or whatever page it was. I mean, it's awful. It's so mean. But at the same time, it was like one of the funniest things I've ever seen at the time. Thank you, Alex, for bringing that back. We referenced that a fucking lot in our household, actually.
And you brought it up, I think, probably on here and also on Zack Attack for sure, I think.
Yeah,
So.
it's one of my favorite moments.
Also, like, we would play, when we were playing Halo, people would just jump into, like, lobbies and be like, Snape kills Dumbledore, and then just leave. Like, that, they would just do that same thing, too, because it was the same. It's like, God damn it. But, I mean,
I mean, I guess I'm sure video games are still like this, but like the period of time where like everyone was playing video games, like I was trying to explain to Rachel that like Halo would shut down on Wednesday nights when Chappelle Show would come on. You'd have to turn off the game because if not, like the whole episode was ruined for you as soon as like once the episode
I
was
don't
over.
remember that. Okay, that makes sense, though.
It was Chappelle Show back to back South Park. Like it was like one and the other, and like if you didn't. Like, I remember we ended the episode, the Rick James episode of Chappelle Show, and somebody's name that joined our lobby was, I'm Rick James, bitch. Like they had already made a new gamer tag to match the episode and came in, we were like, fuck. Like, it's
Beautiful thing.
It's beautiful. It happened in minutes, so yes, I remember.
Alex also says, and no one explains how a centuries-old building has indoor plumbing. Well, yeah, I mean, just magic, I guess, right?
Yeah, true. Magic. Literally magic.
Yep. Next email, subject line, I finally remember the title of the 6F 6F. Score, it's the same as 4F 4F, but 2 extra, from Wells Lamont.
Okay. What's up, Wells?
I have a question for you. Who is even the bad guy in 3F 3F Presents Tokyo Drift? Is it the Yakuza? It doesn't necessarily seem like it. Is it DK? What did DK really do to be considered bad? If anything, his shady-ass girlfriend is the bad guy for creeping on him with Sean, causing a ruckus. Shout out to Wu-Tang. If anyone is the bad guy, it's Han. He's ripping off not only his partner, but the Yakuza, causing major problems.
True.
Twinkie's kind of the enabler, but he's obviously not the bad guy. I'm wondering now, because you brought up how the bad guy in 7 is the weakest villain in the Fastiverse. I made a list before, I think, but I can't remember. In 1F 1F, the bad guy is Dom. In 2F 2F, it's Carter Verone. In 4F 4F, it's Braga. 5F 5F, it's Reyes. 6F 6F, it's Shaw. 7F 7F, it's Shaw's brother, Shaw. In 8F 8F, it's the Braids. One last thing, why is IMDb so backwards? I had to dig deep through the casting list to find DK's real name. They listed a bunch of extras before him. They need to get their priorities straight. Well, I think that is...
They do
I can
it
answer
by
that because,
searching.
like, No, 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 no. It
Yeah.
matches the credits in the movie, and the movie, I guess, for Tokyo Drift is in order of appearance.
No, I thought it was the other way around because that's how what's his name became suspicious onlooker super high up on IMDb. It's based on how much people search for that
Nope.
person. Did they change it?
Then it was never like that.
No, because like the kid that I went to high school with that was suspicious onlooker number 2 became like the third build thing in Jack Reacher because everybody was searching for him. It was like Tom Cruise and then him as suspicious onlooker. Like that was like a
No, the
whole
only way that
meme.
IMDb has ever been credited, as far as I know, is either it mirrors the movie because it's not like they're arbitrarily doing things, but it's either
I
top
thought it
build
was
like
the other.
how people negotiate, like by role or whatever, or in order of appearance. Which in this, because if you go through Wells, it'll show like all the American high school kids and then all the Japanese high school kids and whatever. So
Okay, I'll take your word for it. I thought that it was the other way around because I remember this whole suspicious onlooker story. So
IMDb Jack Reacher, because right now
yeah, on a long enough timeline, it's gonna get washed out. But like if you search for like one person in a movie 100 times when the movie first comes out,
Alexander Rhodes, yeah, he's like eighth from the bottom.
yeah. But at one
Because right
point he
now it's
was
Jack
like,
Reacher. It's Jack Reacher, and then the female lead, and then the other male leads and stuff. So
yeah.
yeah,
But I'm saying like at one point he was like third build in Jack Reacher on IMDb.
that's weird.
Yeah.
I don't not believe you, but I also don't know why that would ever be the case. So the only thing that I think that like ever IMDb
Algorithms.
changes is like the top four, and that's supposed to be, I think, based on popularity, but also like if you have an IMDb Pro, you can set your top four. So like you can be like, I'm gonna promote my new stuff, or I'm gonna promote this old thing, or whatever.
Okay.
Like you can do
Okay.
that, but I don't know. I have no idea.
Okay.
Wells says Ghost Girl makes me cringe too. How'd they let that slide? It's so awkward.
Dude.
Iggy Azalea was not great. She tried way too hard. Probably happens when you only have a line or two because you want to murder it so bad you end up overacting.
Yeah, I could see that.
Actually, let's go back a step because we didn't answer the thing. Who's the villain in Tokyo Drift?
He makes a really great case that it's Han. From the like what they're trying to sell you is the DK is the villain. It's definitely not Sonny Chiba because he seems kind of impartial, even though
Well,
he is
he's a
the
villain
Yakuza.
in the world, but not a villain
Yes.
to our story, right?
That's okay, fair. That's a good distinction. But I think Wells is 100% right. The actual villain here is that Han is two-timing his best friend, fucking the Yakuza, and like running around with high schoolers. None of these things should exist. But he's the hero of our story. What do you think? Does that make sense to you?
I mean, you could probably also make an argument that Sean is the villain, that things are going fine until the white boy comes in and messes things up. So.
He does white savior it up a little bit, doesn't he? That's true. Very good point. Well, Sean
No
is just
idea.
the villain because he's too old to be in high school. But yes.
And then Wells says, okay, bros, I'm about to start gung ho right now, so I may be back real soon. Peace, anus, you anus piecers. I don't know if
I
that
hope
means
he-
listening or watching or what, but he did not email again, so he's not back real soon. So.
I hope that he watched Gung Ho because the movie was fun. I think Wells would really like it. If he's never seen it before, then this is a very movie that he would enjoy for just its goofiness.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. I think that feels like a Wells movie.
Yeah, I think so.
Next email, 35 large from Jerry Robinson.
Okay. Oh, well, how fucking timely, Jerry, because you'll see in a second.
Well, we talked about it in the last minute,
that's
too.
right. It carried over. But yes,
How
it's-
timely that he responded to a thing that we talked about in the last episode.
Yes, true. Very true.
He says, I think this is one of the top Fast and Furious questions. I don't think it's 35 grand, and here's why. The first movie says only 2 grand twice. 2 grand in LA to 35 grand in Miami. That's a big ass increase in 2 movies.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking it was 3 grand that becomes 3,500.
I think so too. Kick in a
Miami
nickel,
rent,
add
yeah.
another 500. That makes sense.
Also, as we see in this minute, like he hands him a little stack of money that is not 35 grand, unless those are like $5,000 bills.
Or yeah, even like at hundreds, it would be like a couple stacks, you know. So it seems like it's 3,500. I agree.
Miami rent is kind of expensive, especially back then around 2003, but maybe they got a big ass house. I don't know. From what the cash the ratios get to Tej looks nowhere near 35,000.
No,
There we go.
that's right.
Or it'd be more thick. He says, on a random note, I was driving one of my weekly stops and I have an S10. And Joey, right when you said, hey, Google, pull up Jason Statham, my phone literally said, pulling up Jason Statham. And I laughed so hard, I was in tears.
So this was the Super Bowl commercial thing. Do you remember this Super Bowl commercial that was like, okay, Google, hello, Alexa, or like, you know what
Yep.
I mean? And the thing is, I don't have any of these listening devices in my house, so I didn't get the joke. Everybody else was like, oh my god, my shit just like all went crazy in my house, but I didn't have that because I don't like them listening to me. But that's funny. That's really
Well,
funny.
when you make a commercial like that,
Yes.
there is a way that you can layer sounds under the sounds that
Yes.
the device does not activate, which they learn the hard way because like of stuff goes wrong, right? And like it
Yeah.
just things device. So I only said Google because I have an ALEXA right next to me and I have an iPhone to the other side of me. And so I'm like, what's the one thing that's selfishly not going to trigger in my room? Okay, Google, bring up Jason Statham dancing.
Makes sense. There you go. Hope you got it again, Jerry.
Yeah. Our next email from Patreon, new $1 patron, meet Dope D. So now Dope D is someone who has been tweeting at us or interacting with us a little bit on Twitter.
And
D
we were
has
wondering
been
who it was. Yeah.
very quiet, but it looks like Deshante. So if I'm getting that name wrong, I am so sorry. That's at least what the email looks like. So D, if you want to send a note in, family@cageclub.me, say hi. Maybe you did. I don't think you did. We'll find out.
Yeah, maybe you had like some other alias or something. I don't know, but I don't think that you did. We were curious because we saw like how much you were responding on Twitter, and we were like trying to figure out who it was. Because like sometimes we can
Yep.
like guess it's like somebody that we talk to or something. But yeah,
So thank you, D. And D's doing it right. I mean, $1 a month, they get
bonus
the
Patreon
entire
episodes,
everything,
yeah.
right? They don't get the stickers or the pick movies, but every bonus episode, access to everything. $1 a month, toofast2forever.com. Shout out to D. Thank you, D.
Thank you, D.
Next email from Dan Hayden. Subject line, catch up and being awesome.
What's up, Dan? How are you doing, bud?
What up, Joe and Joey? It's been a while. I've been extremely busy lately, but I have been listening. I finished catching up last week when I drove up to Worcester, Massachusetts, and
Worcester,
back
Mass.
in one day.
Worcester was always the fake town that we used when we lied about where we were from.
Why did you lie about where you're from?
I don't know if you need to sometimes. But Worcester, Mass is a great place to lie about where you're from because it's spelled goofy. So you only know that it's called Worcester if you ever been to Worcester.
Worcester.
For anybody that doesn't know about Massachusetts, it's spelled like Worcester, but it's called Worcester, as in Wooster. That's how you
Worcester.
pronounce it. Yeah, exactly.
I was picking up an extremely hard to find bicycle, and while I was in the area, I stopped at Treehouse Brewing and got a huge case of beer. Well, shout out to Treehouse Brewing.
Yeah.
I've not thought about Treehouse in a long time.
They just brewed some cold brew coffee today, is what I was seeing in the
Ooh.
Treehouse groups. They've been like super coffee bonered lately, and
So apparently yesterday was not only 420 for like the weed holiday, but also was like National Cold Brew Day or something. Like I saw that on Twitter. So
interesting.
I don't know. Maybe that's why they did it.
Well, cold brew needs to get their own holiday because I think that one's already taken.
You know, you can have complementary things, but I don't know that those two things complement one another that well. Like, you know, you could do better.
I think that if you're celebrating 420, you smoke enough weed that cold brew probably does complement it somehow. Like
You know, I went on my run yesterday through my neighborhood, and I only smelled weed in one house. Like, you know,
you don't
again,
live in, like, a college
admittedly,
town. Yeah.
I know, but admittedly strong enough to smell it from the sidewalk by the street. But like,
True.
I was like, I can't believe I didn't smell it in more than one place.
I just got drunk and watched Temptation Island, but that's pretty on brand for me. So
Yep, it's a Tuesday.
It's a
What's
Tuesday.
Joe doing? Drinking and watching reality TV.
exactly.
Joe, Temptation. Oh, here we go. Jesus. Joe, Temptation Island is the greatest trash my wife and I have ever seen. Thanks for the suggestion. Hot take on the outcome of the last two episodes? Question mark.
Oh, he wants one from me.
This was sent on Monday, so it does not include last night.
Every season of Temptation, I'm glad that he's watching it. It is the best trash TV. I promise you, it's like if you like any of these shows, Temptation Island is the holy grail. Every season, there's like one king scumbag guy that comes in with his girlfriend. It's just like the worst person you've ever seen on TV. And this year, it's this guy named Kendall. As soon as he left his girlfriend, he was like, I'm single. He has like a threesome. He's been like hooking up with this one girl the whole time. He's been telling her like he's like talking about like moving with this other girl. Does like he probably knows now, but like as of last night's episode, Kendall like they like finally sit down, right? It's the re-come together. So that scumbag guy comes back with his girlfriend, who's now she's watched the videos of him have threesomes. Like they showed her them. He sits down and he's like, I was just trying to like open up emotionally. And we're like, what the fuck is like, you are such a gaslighter. This like he sits down and he's like, yeah, like I realized I still like I definitely love you and I need to work on myself. And we're like, you didn't do any of that shit. You were just like hooking up with as many girls as you could the whole time you were here. I'm very excited for the finale, but I'm glad that Dan's watching. I don't have any more hot takes than that. Well, Corey, there's a guy, Corey, he's like the nicest guy ever, and his girlfriend is all she wants to do is talk about soccer. She needs to go, and like as of last night, we're like, we love each other and we're gonna stay together, and this was fucking stupid. So sucks to be Corey.
Sorry, Corey.
Yeah, I'll stop there because if not, I'll just keep ranting about Temptation Island forever. So
Dan says, anyway, nothing crazy new to report. Figured I'd drop you a line and let you know I'm still here. I'm still listening.
And if you haven't, Dan, go back and watch the first 2 seasons. I think they're on some fucking platform like Hulu or Peacock or something. They're equally as good as this one. So
He also took the quiz.
ooh, what'd he get?
He got 63, which I was like, I texted him yesterday. Hold on, because he took I jumped a little bit ahead in the mailbag.
Okay.
Because I got this email and I started this. But I texted him yesterday. I was like, glad my post seemed to inspire you to take the quiz. I haven't seen the damage yet, though. Haha. And he said, I've been meaning to take it. It wasn't pretty. I think I got 61, right? He actually got 63.
Okay.
I was like, I got to say, I'm like, that's not great, but it's also far from the worst because I said the quiz is undefeated in the Thunderdome. I was like, I got like an 80. What was my actual? I got an 84 and I wrote the damn thing, right? So like,
Yeah. He's 20
crazy.
less than you. That's not.
Like the high water mark right now, it's still, you got 93, Ben got 92, but it feels like in the mid 60s where Dan is the mean, and then
Yes,
we got
I
a couple
agree.
people in the 40s. So
Yeah.
it's brutal. It kicks your ass.
It is. It's hard. Very, very hard.
I don't know. I mean, I'm just trying to keep it real. Like I would not be proud of a 63, but also there's no shame in a 63. Like 63 is
Definitely not.
Well, thank you, Dan. Shout out to Dan. Shout out to the quiz. Again, patreon.com. Too Fast, Too Forever. Get the link to the quiz.
Yeah, D
Maybe.
can take the quiz now.
Then this one, I got an email. I don't know why sometimes this happens, sometimes it doesn't. Or maybe he used the button on the Facebook page. We got a note from Jeff Horner to our Facebook page, Too Fast, Too Forever, the Fast and Furious podcast.
Okay. What's up, Jeff?
Your name, Jeff Horner. You gave the phone number. I guess we asked for the phone number. I don't know. I don't think that feels like we shouldn't have asked for a phone number, but
Yeah, I don't think so.
It says, just listen to your show on the Italian Job 1969. It was great to hear you mention this movie. You can see me on Facebook talking about it all the time. The producer's final explanation for why the movie didn't do so well in America is because he believes the American audience just didn't get the dialogue that didn't have anything to do with America. The book Self-Preservation Society, 50 Years of the Italian Job came out in 2019, and I'm still helping the author with some documentations for a revised version of the book.
Ooh.
There's also a television series in the works based on the original movie, which we heard about. We talked about on here, I think. So
Yes.
It says, thank you for your time, Jeff. Well, thank you, Jeff. That's pretty cool.
That's
I didn't know
a really cool email. Yeah.
I didn't know about the book. I think it's awesome that you helped with the book. In some way, at least you're helping the author. And never count out America being dumb on why a thing doesn't do well here.
That should just be like on a license plate somewhere. Never count on America not being dumb.
This is where like when I was like, we got a weird mailbag because like we rarely get that Facebook like email us thing. Then the next thing I have is another positive comment on YouTube.
No way.
I know, right?
What are the chances?
So we got this note from Not Venzo, and it looks like their picture is some wrestler. I'm so sorry, it's just too little for me to know, and also I wouldn't know the wrestler.
Okay.
Some dude with long hair. Chris Jericho, maybe?
Maybe.
I'll send you this picture while I read this email. You can tell me who this is. That's my guess, Chris Jericho. I love Heather's take on F8. Some of her points are really good, especially coming from someone who's seen it and watching. Who is it?
It's Roman Reigns.
Oh,
it's
okay.
The Rock's cousin. Yeah.
In Hobbs and Shaw. Okay. Some of her points are really good, especially coming from someone who's seeing and watching the franchise for the first time. Honestly, this film is kind of meh for me. This is about Fate of the Furious. And I place it in the bottom 2 along with F1. Ooh. It's a great film you can watch and never get bored with, as with every fast film, but it doesn't live up to the hype that Furious 7 had, which is one of my favorites along with 4. Ooh. So you don't like 1, but you do like 4. That's fascinating. Okay.
Very weird.
Like what Heather said, the point of Dom betraying the family doesn't make sense and the story seems bland at best, but the fact that Brian isn't here feels like an empty part of the family is missing. They did a good job of addressing him here, but it doesn't feel the same. The action sequences live up to the hype. The submarine chase and the zombie cars, 9 out of 10 for both. Overall, glad to hear Heather liked it and now a fanboy for Statham. She's not alone. Anyway, see you guys next week for Hobbs and Shaw. Cheers. P.S. I understand why Charlize was in this film. Director F. Gary Gray and her have a great relationship since she was in The Italian Job, which we talked about, which also starred Jason Statham as well, so it makes sense why she's the villain. There's a cameo in Hobbs and Shaw, which makes reference to the film and possibly connected, so watch for that. And I responded, and I was just like, oh, we know all about that.
We definitely do. We broke it down, bud.
And then he responded again, said, can't wait for the last and amazing end to Heather's run on the podcast with Hobbs and Shaw. She's gonna love it. So I would assume, we were wondering where these people are coming from. I would assume that Not Venzo was a fan of Heather.
I think so. That would make a lot of sense. But with the wrestling picture, it could be a fan of Nate's. We don't know. We have no idea, but that's awesome.
True.
I'm glad that you found Heather's lap here. That's good.
Yes, sir. Our next email from a new listener writes in, glad I'm not the only one, and an attempt at rankings from Emily C.
Well, yeah, you're right. This was
Told
like
you, it's a weird mailbag, man.
weird mailbag, but in a great
We
way.
still got 5 more to go, too.
Super positive. Okay.
Gotta tell Mike we're gonna be late. Hold on, let me message Mike right now. All right, Emily says, "Hi guys. I've been enjoying listening to your podcast the last couple of months, so I thought I'd say hello.
Hello,
I
Emily.
grew up on mostly ridiculous action movies, especially the Bond films. Well, I'm so sorry if this is
There you go.
turning you off now. Despite this, I only started watching the Fast and Furious movies when Fate came out. I went and watched the first 7 before I saw it because I'm big on watching, reading things in chronological order. So while I technically started with the first one, I like to think that I started with Fate."
Okay.
Makes sense to me. Yep.
Makes sense to me too.
I'll put my attempt of rankings at the end. Side note on the Bond films on recent rewatches, the early ones, aka the Connery and Moore eras, are ... not really great. Personally, I start thinking they get mostly good at the Dalton films. Your mileage may vary on License to Kill, and I'm very fond of GoldenEye, as it's one of the very first movies I remember watching as a kid. I've heard good things about GoldenEye,
Yeah, GoldenEye's good.
and the game is great, so,
Yeah.
you know. I'm glad I'm not the only one who doesn't really like Vin/Dom and only really got into it when Jason Statham showed up. I'm not entirely sure why I don't like Dom, but that's really a major factor on why my rankings are the way they are, and possibly kind of why I didn't bother starting the franchise until 2017. I've really enjoyed listening to the episodes with Heather since I've had many of the same thoughts while watching these movies. Thanks for a fun podcast, and I look forward to future episodes, Emily.
Welcome aboard. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad Emily found us. Cool.
So here's her ranking. She says, "Full disclosure, I've only seen the first 4 movies once. I might eventually go back and watch them again, but my quote, eventually, usually means in a couple years or never." Yeah.
That's fine.
It's like,
Yeah.
that's all I'm like, I'll watch it soon. It's like, that doesn't really mean much. Like, that just means I'll watch it eventually.
Yeah, you put it on your list, and then it just exists.
Okay, number 9, The Fast and the Furious, the first one. Oh man, we're running up against
2
people who hate
people.
this first one. I know.
Yeah, 2 people in a row.
It was really hard for me to get through this. Too much car stuff, not enough dumb action, maybe. And I only kept going because I heard the later ones were better. Fair enough. Okay.
And you stuck around though. That's good.
Number 8, Fast and Furious, the fourth one. They killed Letty. Like, why? I always forget that Giselle is introduced in this one because all I can remember about it is the one where they killed Letty.
Sometimes same. Honestly, yeah.
Which you have no excuse because you have a podcast about this.
I know, but sometimes, like, Giselle pops up in 4 sometimes, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right.
Her 6 and 7 are tied, so she has Too Fast and Tokyo Drift. For Too Fast, she says, "I remember it being kind of bonkers. I mean, driving the car into the boat, just the right amount of ridiculousness that I enjoy." About the same ranking as Tokyo Drift, which she says, "I remember really liking Han and the music. Don't think I cared about Sean, though." About the same ranking as Too Fast, which, yep, okay.
A lot of people agree with you.
Number 5, Fate of the Furious. I really want to put this higher because I enjoy the version in my head, but also when I watch it, I live up to my title as the Queen of Fast Forwarding and skip a lot of the Dom angsting scenes and Elena's pointless death. So my version's a couple of rankings higher, but the movie as a whole is about here because I've at least liked it enough to watch it multiple times. Okay.
That sounds pretty much exactly like what Heather said, right? She's like right on board with Heather there.
Yep.
Because
Her
Heather was
hour
like
and a half long version of the movie. Yep.
Yeah, in her head was much better.
I also like this idea of the Queen of Fast Forwarding.
Yeah, Rachel's the queen of fast forwarding, like the queen of rewinding, and then she rewinds too far every time and makes me rewatch a scene that we've seen.
Number 4, Fast 5. This is the first one I really enjoyed. I do love a good, fun heist movie. I mean, the whole dragging the safe with the cars thing doesn't really make sense, but it makes for a fun scene as long as you don't think about it too much.
Exactly.
Number 3, Fast and Furious 6. I enjoy Owen Shaw and the fight scenes. Plus, the last, hour of the movie is kind of ridiculous. Cars, tanks, planes, harpoons or something, and I enjoy that. Minus Giselle's death. Why do we keep killing the women in these movies or in any action movie?
I don't know. Go watch The Long Kiss Goodnight.
Yeah, or that, any of that random ass tweet that I found where it's just like badass ladies. There's that podcast all about badass action ladies, right? So
yeah, there is. That's true.
ask Kara on Twitter at Bimps what it is. I don't remember what it is.
That's right.
Number 2, Furious 7. Deckard's my favorite, even though he's the villain in this. I love the introduction of Ramsey to the franchise and hate that this makes me cry every time. Also, driving a car through a couple buildings, wild.
Wild, for sure.
And number 1, Hobbs and Shaw. Like I said, Deckard's my favorite, despite his characterization being wildly all over the place. And Hobbs is probably third-ish after Hattie because I love her. Well, I love Hattie too.
That's true. That's a good top 3.
Yeah, it's like what? Who are my top 3? It's the people in Hobbs and Shaw. It's the people on that poster. That
makes sense.
Plus, this one doesn't have the Toretto family drama, and I think it's just more fun all around. Does it have problems? Yes, but all these movies do. Is it a true Fast and Furious movie? I don't know. But I also don't care that much because it's fun.
It's definitely, I think it's the most fun.
So shout out to you, Emily. Thank you for those rankings. If you're not sending your rankings, if you're listening out there and you have not sending your rankings, please do that because I love keeping tallies of these things.
Yeah, please. Seriously.
Next email from Jenny McMullen, subject line olives.
What's up, Jenny? How are you
I
doing?
was talking to my friends last night about the mailbag. I was like, look at all these, these emails that we got. I'm like, oh, we just got another one about olives.
Nice.
Which, like, to somebody who doesn't know the podcast, makes no goddamn sense. But
Makes
like, we
no
talked about
sense.
olives several times recently.
We've actually been talking about olives for a while because we started with olives with Justin Kleinman's son with the olives in the tapenade. Remember? So like we pretty much are an olive podcast at this point.
Food all over the place.
Yes, Oh, I like that one. Nice job.
Hi guys, just heard the most recent mailbag, so I wanted to put my 2 cents in on olives. We use black olives, usually sliced on pizza, on nachos, or Mexican dishes, and in spaghetti sauce. They're pretty much a normal ingredient for Mexican and Italian food at our house. We also put them in pasta salads, sometimes with green ones also. That's it. Gotta get back on the road to home. Later, Jenny.
I'm glad. That was almost a perfect email. That was incredible to me. I love olives. And I'm glad that Jenny just stopped to write an email about olives to us. That made me really, really happy. Thank you, Jenny.
Our next email is, we have back-to-back ones here. Nope, not yet. This
Okay.
next email is from Jerry Robinson, subject line, COVID vaccine updates.
Cool. How are you doing, Jerry?
Really quick email. As of today, 4/21, I've received my 2nd dose of Moderna, and Ileana just got her 1st dose yesterday. Well, congratulations to both of you.
Congrats to both of you. You guys are getting on their way.
I want to see if I can find an Instagram story. I want to say friend of the show, Melissa Lynham, posted it, but it might not have been her. No, it wasn't her. Somebody posted it. It was a picture, just a caption of a tweet. Bugging right now because I got Moderna, and I feel like all the hot people got Pfizer.
Did you see the one that was the picture of Trubisky, Mahomes, who was it, like Deshaun Watson or someone? And they were like Pfizer, Moderna, and then Trubisky was Johnson & Johnson. Did you see that? There's been a bunch of memes like this, and it
No,
always
I have
cracks me up.
not, but
You get it, yeah.
I get it. I feel like we got to destigmatize the J&J vaccine.
We definitely need to. There's not. Yes, I agree, but
It's still pretty good.
yeah, it's six people, man. It was 6 people. Like, yeah, get your vaccine, everyone.
I know the
please.
EU already said that they're going to. It's like it's so unlikely that they're just it's fine to do.
Yeah.
I got Moderna, and now I'm embarrassed because I feel like hot people got Pfizer. Spiraling from @SpencerHenry on Twitter.
Well, I got Pfizer, hair flip.
And I got Pfizer too. All right.
Rachel got Moderna.
Now,
What does that say?
now back-to-back emails from Nick Burris. It looks like he texted these in. I have no idea. No, he sent them via email. He says, first email, hey everyone. Second
What's up,
email,
Nick? How
I'm
you doing,
back.
bud?
And that's it.
You're back.
2 emails.
Perfect.
Hey everyone, I'm back.
I'm glad you're back.
And then our most recent email just came in on this episode while we were recording from the movie collector himself. Hey fam, what's up? From Jason Dickinson.
What's up, Jason? How are you doing, buddy?
Hey fam, sup, hope all is well. Sorry I haven't written in a while. Been very busy with my podcast. Can't wait for F9. Take care, stay fast, stay furious.
Yes, I can't wait for F9 either, brother. Keep on keeping on. Glad to hear from you.
That's all the emails for today. Family@cageclub.me if you want to email in. Thank you all so very much. Or if you want to, I guess you can send via Facebook, or if you want to comment on YouTube. I don't know.
We'll find it, apparently. Good job, Joey. You found them all.
Family@cageclub.me. You can also leave a review for us at Apple Podcasts or wherever. Please do that.
iTunes, yeah.
And if you want to go to the store, toofast2forever.shop. Cool stuff over there. Joe,
There is.
on the streets, news about the Fast and Furious. What do you got? What do you got? What do you got?
I mean, just spoiler hot takes about the trailer. Like, that's it. And I don't want to go over that with you. So,
Well, someone today
what?
tweeted at us. I don't know who this person is, but they're Dominic Toretto on Twitter. It's not. I don't think it's the real Dominic Toretto because Dominic Toretto is a fictional character, and I'm pretty sure it's not Vin Diesel. If it's a Vin Diesel burner account, it's pretty cool.
That's the fucking
But-
coolest thing I've ever heard. If Vin Diesel sending burner account messages to us. But yes, go ahead.
They tweeted at us that Jason Statham says Fast and Furious franchise, quote, better bring me back following the return of Han. So,
Jason Statham?
yeah, because, he's in the spinoff. But Statham wants back in.
I always assumed he would be back for 10, right? Like, kind of like The Rock, too?
Yeah. I mean, they're not going to bring one back with the other, I don't think. There was a Q&A that Justin Lin did the day that the trailer came out.
Okay.
And he said something like, oh, yeah, I don't consider them in a different universe now. Like, they can come back in. It's like, yeah, of course they could. Like, who's saying that they couldn't? Like,
yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out. That was my
I didn't
response.
read the interview because I didn't want spoilers, but like that was like the headline, like, oh yeah, they could come back in. It's like, yeah, we assumed that they would.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's why my take was like, yeah, of course.
JFC.
Of course.
The other news is that Vin is producing and starring in a Rock'em Sock'em Robots movie.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
Still to be determined if he has beef with The Rock, but he is rock'eming and sock'eming all comers.
Yeah.
That's all I got, though. Young Rock, though, speaking of The Rock, Young Rock, episode 9. By the way, before we talk about this episode, There are at least 11 episodes because Wikipedia added another one. Episode 11 in 2 weeks is called Election Day. So
Okay.
I guess we'll find out if he wins his election against
Taft,
the great-great-grandson of William Howard Taft. Yeah, episode 9, A Lady Named Star Search.
This was like kind of a mom, kind of a grandma episode.
Yeah, I liked, so there's a reference to San Andreas early on. I'm still wondering if we're ever going to get Fast and Furious, but what I liked about this is that we were just talking last episode, little Dewey, not been around, and he's here. And I like that there's kind of like daddy, little Dewey goof arounds where like they're just like getting into fights and stuff. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, this one was really good. I think that now that we've had a couple high school episodes, I think that the most fun episodes are young Dewey episodes and the college episodes.
I also feel like the little Dewey, it's at a point in his dad's life. Like, it's the same actor playing the dad in all 3 times, but like he seems to be having the most fun here because he's like
yes,
in his element, in his youth, like he's wrestling, he's active and whatever, and so he seems like it's a different kind of character, I think.
I agree. It's not like depressing that his dad is working at some delivery company,
right,
as a now debunked wrestler, right? So
we get some, I won't spoil it in case you haven't watched it yet, but some like kind of needless TV drama that how they're going to string something along. They're like planning something out. I'm like, we don't need this.
Oh yes, I agree.
Don't need it.
Don't need it. I absolutely agree. I was like,
but I mean, maybe it actually happened.
I think probably, because that would explain some other things that happened, but like, he's doing a good job of making his family members very important characters in this show, when the real main character, to me, what I want is to always be him. It feels interesting sometimes when he makes like his mom such a pivotal character, or his grandma like so in the limelight of the show, because I get that they're like important to him, but to the viewer the importance is him.
Right. And what I liked about this is it ends on a nice joke, especially since we were talking last time about how we're kind of tired of the framing device.
Yes.
So we come back because this is all like in a presidential debate, and they're just talking about like, what's your legacy going to be? And he tells this 20-minute long story. That's the episode. Taft's great-great-grandson is like, that was your quick story? You exceeded your allotted time by what, 20 minutes? And the episode ends. It's just
it was perfect.
It's like, they're aware that like he's just going on these like rambling monologues recounting a story of the time he was 5 and wanted to boogie board or whatever, right? But like,
I really like the self-awareness to make that joke, considering we were like, you don't need this, and for them to be aware of it was like, okay, cool. I think we might eventually get to a point where I don't know, are they going to use this framing device forever? They probably shouldn't.
I don't know. I have no idea. No idea.
Either.
I think episode 11 is election day, but I feel like we're going to get toward 13 because I don't think we're going to end with the election. 11 is also a weird order for a season, unless it's like pilot plus 10, which I don't know if people do, but
I think it'd be 12. I'm feeling 12, right?
Well, you felt 10 last week and you were wrong, so let's see if this one's right.
It's going to end on an even number. So I was thinking 10. Okay, now we got 11.
Why do you think even number? I mean, I think a standard TV season, I think,
is 12.
Maybe not anymore, is 13.
It's 13?
Mm-hmm.
I guess I never pay attention, dude.
You're too busy scrolling IMDb by most searched for.
Yeah, true. Or watching Temptation Island. Even then, I don't know how many fucking episodes there is, so.
But New Young Rock tonight, episode 10, as this comes out in the main feed, then New Young Rock next week, Election Day, and then, I don't know, either 0, 1, 2, or maybe Infinity. I don't know. Infinity?
Infinity episodes of Young Rock.
2 Young Rock, 2 Forever.
Exactly.
All right, the final thing to do before we take a break is the Fast and Furious minute 7 from Too Fast, Too Furious. A minute I called from Monica to Monica?
Okay. 35 large. 3-5. Pero no más de ahí. Seguro.
Coño. 35 large, huh? Either that or you can go home, bruh. Yeah. It's all there. Better be. Damn, Suki, when you gonna pop my clutch, huh?
As soon as you get the right set of tools.
Yeah, all right.
In this minute, the racer's ponying up the extra nickel to Tej. Brian sees Monica Fuentes in the crowd who's staring at him. He can't take his eyes off her. Tej instructs the crowd to back up away from the racers. That's it.
That's it.
There's not a lot that goes on.
No, there's not. And I even, like, I messaged you before this. I was like, am I missing something again? Because, like,
Nope.
not a lot of signs going on. There's not a lot of car stuff. It's just, like, all faces and some dialogue, but, like, a lot of faces.
More Spanish by both Orange Julius and Brian a little bit, which I cannot translate because I do not speak the language.
And they don't subtitle it because it's
Nope.
not important. There's just Spanish being talked. That's it.
I was watching something recently. What was I watching where they were speaking German and like it was Bond. It was the On Her Majesty's Secret Service. And I guess because Bond doesn't speak German, which makes sense, they don't subtitle it because it's just like people walking down the hallway speaking German. It's just like, well, why is this dialogue perfectly audible if we're not supposed to know what they're saying? It's just like, cool, I get that people are speaking German, but like, you want to fill me in?
I hate that. And like, that's like one of my biggest, like, I wish I knew every language for those moments. To be like, and I know it's always going to be something fucking stupid, right? Because it's always going to be like, oh yeah, we're in Germany. How appropriate. And like, that's going to be what they say. Like, it's going to be something like that has nothing to do with the story because it can't if you don't subtitle it. I get upset that I don't know what they're saying.
The thing of note, I think, in this minute is that we see the inside of Suki's car and there's all pink everything. And like, even the gear shifter's base is like pink fabric, which I think is kind of fabulous.
Yes, that was in the video story that I put in the document, that they actually used bath mats, like rugs that you would put in your bathroom.
Oh, okay. That sure. I was like, where would you get this much? Because it's either like 70s coats or I didn't know what, or like I guess like hats from 2003.
Yeah, so they just like stitched seat covers that were just made out of bath mats. And you could see in the video too, this is like the shot that you see the neon lighting, the pink neon lighting, and he like goes through and shows you how it's like really shitty installed. They only need it to look good in this shot. It doesn't need to be like fully functional in the car every day, right? So they just like hot glue gunned these neon lights to like the side of the car because that's the easiest way to do it for the movie for this 3 seconds.
By the way, speaking of this movie and this race that we're about to see, there was the breaking news last week that somebody jumped, like, a bridge was going up and they ran through the gate. And, obviously everybody made the same joke, but I put in the verbatim quote, which we have not gotten to yet, but about the Tej, telling the guy, like, you ain't seen nothing yet, or whatever the quote is. I don't know. Yeah. Fast and Furious in real life, baby.
Real life. That's wild. I never want to ever do that. That sounds terrifying. I had a dream this afternoon that I fell down an elevator shaft, and that was scary enough for me.
Too slow.
Too slow.
The trivia question I have here, do you have anything else of note in this minute?
I added some car stuff, but there's really not much to add. There was no signs or anything either,
So the only question I have, and I like this question a lot, I think, is what is the correct order in which the racers give Tej their entry fee?
This sounds like a question that I will most definitely get wrong on the quiz, so I'm with you because we can't do another question about how much is 35 grad.
So I have as the answer, there's 6 answers here. Which also, by the way, if people have not noticed yet, the theme, the order that I put these trivia answers in is just alphabetical. And so, like, that also doesn't help anybody, right?
No,
so it's just like, it might be the first every time, but it's not because I'm putting the right answer first. It's just, if it's first every time, it's because it's alphabetically first. So that makes the quiz maybe a little bit harder. But I have, for all 6 answers here, Suki last. And then I have just a different combination of Brian, Orange Julius, and Slapjack, with the right answer being Orange Julius, and then Brian, and then Slapjack. Because, like, in the same little meetup, Orange Julius pays and Brian pays, and he goes over to Slapjack and he pays on Suki.
I'm 100% gonna think it's Orange Julius, Slapjack, then Brian.
You're gonna be wrong.
And I'm always gonna be wrong about this. I'm gonna get Orange Julius first, and then Brian and Slapjack are gonna really break my brain.
I want you to send this question to your friends because I don't know if you've been doing that for this time or not, but like this feels like the first one that they're gonna be like, what the fuck, why?
They haven't watched Too Fast as many times. Okay. That's why I haven't been sending them along.
Gotcha.
They were like, oh, we've seen, the first one like a million times. Like, all of them were like super cocky about it. So that's why they were getting all the questions from that one.
Because this one reminds me of the question we had in the first one, which is like, when Vince is bleeding out, what did Dom, Mia, and Brian do?
It reminded me more of what's the correct button push sequence that Dom uses to do the
Dom's cool secret, which I remember the name of the minute, but I don't remember what the actual...
I don't remember either.
Hazard lights and or AC and then hazard lights, or hazard lights then AC?
Yes, it's one or the other, and you just have to toss up every time.
Yep. Minute 7. 7 minutes in, 7 questions in. patrons have the availability to take the quiz. Nobody's taking the quiz yet. I mean, don't take the quiz. There's 7 questions. There's no point.
Yeah.
Wait till there's like 10 or 15 or 20 or 25 or something.
50. I would wait till at least like 50, I think.
So you're telling people wait 43 weeks?
No, I mean, take it whatever the fuck you want. I'm saying I think my first like real judgment's going to be at about 50. That's like where you get like a good gauge of how fucked we are. So
come back in February 2022.
yeah, we'll get there
Take
eventually.
the quiz. Well, let's take a break. Let's bring in the Mikester to kick off this 3-episode, 3-location series about Lone Wolf and Cub and Shogun Assassin.
Welcome back to Too Fast, Too Forever. This is episode number 176, Shogun Assassin. This episode is brought to you by COS, the Italian designers of Ludovica and Roberto Palomba, who have won many awards for the coolest bathtubs I've ever seen. Shout out to COS.
Well, shout out to Kaz and welcome back to the show. As we've been talking about, we are on a 3-episode, 3-location,
Ooh,
a little jauntier.
Yeah.
We are doing a 3-episode crossover with the resident historian Mike Manzi himself. Hello, Mike.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Welcome
I'm so
back to
glad
the show.
to
It's been a
have
little
you.
bit while, a little while since you've been here. It's been a while.
It's been a minute. And speaking of bathtub sponsors, how about the bathhouses in these movies? Oh man,
Oh,
so-
for sure.
So many.
And we have lots of bathtub talk on this lap in particular. We'll get to that. But I do want to clarify. So here's what we're doing. So if you do not know, Shogun Assassin here today. Plus, we're going to be talking about the first 2 Lone Wolf and Cub movies because that's what this movie's based on. Then on what day of the week is May 3rd? Do we know what day of the week May 3rd is?
I think it's a Monday.
Monday, May 3rd, we are doing Lone Wolf and Cub. Ah, Jesus Christ. You'd think I'd be prepared.
you do so much better. So
On Monday, May 3rd, on Mike's podcast, Third Time's a Charm, we're going to be talking about Lone Wolf and Cub, Baby Cart to Hades, that's also known as Shogun Assassin 2, but I don't know if that helps you find it. And then sometime after that, on our Patreon exclusive feed, Lone Wolf and Cub, Baby Cart in Peril, the 4th Lone Wolf and Cub, also known as Shogun Assassin 3. I don't know if that's going to help you either. All 6 of these movies are streamable on HBO Max and the Criterion Channel, and then the Shogun Assassin recut is also streamable on the Criterion Channel, but not HBO Max. So
Oh,
easily available, and also there's the beautiful Blu-ray box set too.
yeah, true.
Before we started recording, you brought up something that I wanted to talk about on air. That's not about this, but I want to, it's something that we've talked about kind of on the show. Not this particular thing, but please go ahead.
right. Yeah, I didn't know that this would make it onto air, but you kind of melted my mind a little bit the other day, Joey, when you posted a tweet saying, it took 40 some odd episodes of Seinfeld to realize that Jerry on Rick and Morty is the name of Morty's father. And then you were like, is there a Seinfeld connection with Jerry being the dad? And he kind of seems like him. And then I replied saying, well, on the show Seinfeld, Jerry's dad's name is Morty. And it just shut me down for a few hours. I just one of those things that the revelation just burned me out for a minute. But yeah, that's something else.
So, Joe, is this something that you had ever thought of or heard about
No.
before, or no? Because Mike had...
I knew what Mike said. I knew Jerry's dad was named Morty. I knew Rick and Morty. I knew his name was Jerry in the show, but I never made this connection before, and when you guys did it, I also was mind blown. It was wonderful.
Because here's what happened. So I'm watching Seinfeld season 4 right now, and this is the season where he's pitching the show. He's basically pitching Seinfeld to NBC, but they don't really know what the show is yet. But this is the
Okay.
episode I was watching
Butler.
called The Bubble Boy, where they go
I
upstate.
love that. Oh, that's such a good episode, dude. It's the moops, you idiot. It's the moops.
Nothing's finer than being in your diner.
Yeah.
There's a moment in this episode where Jerry does this thing with his face where he puts his hands on his face and just looks exasperated. And I'm like, what? He looks like an animated character. And I don't know. I'm like, who does he look like? Who does he look like? Oh, he looks like Morty's dad. I'm like, wait a minute.
Morty's
I think
dad.
Morty's dad is named Jerry.
He is.
And I'm like, okay, so there's a father figure, or kind of a neurotic middle-aged man named Jerry who vaguely resembles Jerry Seinfeld. And
Yeah.
then when Mike was like, and then Jerry's dad is named Morty, and then I found on YouTube there's a deleted scene from season 1 where they're watching its interdimensional cable, and they're watching interdimensional Jerry Seinfeld do stand-up shtick, but like it doesn't make any sense. And they're just like, I finally found one that connects with my generation or something. So I don't know, man. I don't know if it's true or not, but like,
It's definitely true. Come on, Dan, like you're telling me Dan Harmon isn't a big Seinfeld fan? Like,
well,
Yeah.
it feels like it's the kind of thing that like everybody had been talking about. When I heard, I'm like, I can't believe it took me this long, and it seems like I'm the first person to think of it, right? So like, I don't know.
No.
But there's Reddit
Yeah.
threads that are just like whatever. So
It's
yeah.
crazy because there's like a long tradition in cartoons of sort of basing them off of famous people, you know, and like
Sure.
even
Yeah.
voices like for Looney Tunes and stuff. And it got like, you know, Joey, you're also going through The Simpsons, right? And like half of those voices are old, you know, movie stars impressions as well and everything like that. So I wouldn't be surprised if it was not a coincidence. Like if they were sitting
it's
around
not a
and
coincidence.
yeah, I don't think it is. And I just think, I don't know, like it's just something that hasn't come to light yet. Or if it is, like we just weren't aware. It's just wild. Like I just love it now. I love both shows even more.
Yeah. It's crazy that this wasn't super common knowledge. I'm glad that somehow YouTube put this together for me because that's awesome.
Yeah, and now
Very
the
good.
show, like, and its listeners can sort of spread this and, like, you know,
Spread the gospel, spread the good word. I think that's like, you know, so I am obviously like 20 to 30 years late on most of these Seinfeld and Simpsons things, but like they're not so burned into my psyche that like I'm able to look at them with kind of fresh eyes. And like
Yes.
most of the
Yeah.
time that doesn't actually help. That doesn't mean anything. But here I'm just like, hey, wait a minute. I was also late to the game on Rick and Morty too, right? So
that could definitely be a part of it. Is just that, like, it's not in my consciousness at all. Like, Seinfeld is buried somewhere, like, by itself, you know?
Yes.
So, like, and almost the same with The Simpsons, like, until I realized The Simpsons is based off of everything in the world. Like, and I didn't hold it so sacred anymore or anything, but, like, yeah, definitely Seinfeld. That's wild.
It's in its own mental category for me. So like I could have never
Yeah.
made this connection because like I'll watch Rick and Morty and be like, obviously everything's influenced by Seinfeld, but like it's so locked away that
So speaking of The Simpsons, and this is the last detour I'm going to take before I have a great segue to bring it back in, so don't you worry about it. But there's a book that I read last year called The Day of the Locust. There is a two-part, like it's a novella, like two novellas in one thing by this guy Nathaniel West, who like died at 29 or something. He was in a car accident, like really young, this really talented writer. There are these two stories. He wrote this thing called Miss Lonely Hearts, which is based on an advice columnist in New York. And he wrote this thing called The Day of the Locust, which takes place in LA, and it's about how terrible LA is, basically.
Yeah, there's an amazing movie about that. It's an incredible movie.
Day of the Locust?
Yeah.
Very cool. Okay. But the main character, or maybe is it the main? It's not the main character. It's the secondary character. Like the main character's like best friend, like the first guy he meets out in L.A. Homer Simpson, just named Homer Simpson in a novel that came out in 1939. And so if you look up, Matt Groening is like, oh yeah, like I named it after this character, which seems fucking insane and can't possibly be true. But there's also like the idea that like he was named after Matt Groening's dad, Homer, but also like The Simpsons came from, or the first thing Matt Groening did was Life is Hell, which is set in LA. And so like he has this,
Yeah.
it's the, like,
weird.
it blew my
That's
mind. It's
very
like,
weird.
this
Yeah.
guy enters the room. His name is Homer Simpson. I'm like, what the fuck? From 1939? Like, what?
And he's part of that sub counterculture out there too, Matt Groening, as an underground cartoonist and stuff. So like
Yeah.
he'll have tried to, you know, he uses like exploitation and stuff like that in his art and stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised if that was something. But Joey, that reminds me of the movie Troll 1. There's a character named Harry Potter. And it's
I've
like,
never
wait a
seen
second.
Troll 1. I've only seen Troll 2,
Oh,
which is, I
well-
think, it's the one to watch.
Yeah, Nilbog. Yeah, but to tie it into Seinfeld, Julie Louis-Dreyfus is in Troll 1. So
Oh, okay. As a kid, right? Or no?
no, she's like, I'd say she's right out of SNL. So what, like probably 20, early 20s,
okay.
I think.
Cool. Nice tie-in. Here's how I'm going to segue back.
Go ahead.
Lone Wolf and Cub and Shogun Assassin has influenced a bunch of other things, just like The Simpsons and Seinfeld have. Most notably, Frank Miller has said his Sin City and Ronin series have been influenced by this. The novel, Mike, of particular note to us, Road to Perdition, a Hanks movie that I did not care for very much at all, which everybody else seemed to like, is in, quote, unabashed homage to this. Darren Aronofsky's been trying to get an American, like a Hollywood version of this made for so long. The craziest trivia is in March 2012, they announced that we're going to make a Hollywood version of it, directed by Justin Lin.
Yeah, baby.
What?
Awesome. Yeah.
And
that'd
then
be great.
it never came, nothing came
well.
of it.
There's also, you know, movies like Logan, shows like The Mandalorian. Like this, there's a deep rich sort of history of borrowing from this story.
There's an episode of the first season of Person of Interest named Wolf and Cub. There's a Bob's Burgers episode called The Hawk and Chick, which is parody inspired by this. And then the last thing I have here on the list is The Mandalorian. But you're right, Mike. Absolutely.
And it all came from manga as well. Like
Yes.
I have some. I've not been able to read it. My copy is extremely small, so I have to break out. At my age, I have to break out the magnifying glass. But very
As a
awesome.
60-year-old man, your eyes are not what they used to be.
Not quite. You know, my one eye, my one good one. But it's great.
When you have a good eye, that means you're really old, blood.
But like it touches everything, right? So it's like print, video. Like I don't know. Is there an anime? I'm not sure if there's an anime, but it's definitely influenced anime and everything.
So I have information about that too. I'm glad you bring this up because I want to make sure I get all this out of the way before we talk about these movies. So the manga, first published in 1970, 28 volumes, each with over 300 pages. So there's 8,700 pages, 8,700 some odd pages in all. First came out in 1987 in America, translated by First Comics. They had covers drawn by Frank Miller, Bill Sienkiewicz, Matt Wagner, Mike Plug, and Ray Lago. This company, First Comics, went bankrupt like 3 or 4 years later. They only released a third of the series. So then a decade later, Dark Horse comes in. They re-release and complete the full series. And then there's a reimagined version in 2002 called Lone Wolf 2100, which has the writer of these movies' indirect involvement. It's a post-apocalyptic take on the tale. There's a female cub, a worldwide setting, stuff with science and, renowned scientists and stuff, and like evil corporations and stuff, which is kind of crazy.
Sounds like maybe, like Blade Runner-esque or something.
I was thinking Blade Runner too, Mike. You took the thought out of my head.
Cyberpunk. They took it cyberpunk.
Mm-hmm. Yep. There's also other sequel series to this that I did not read because we're going to watch more of these movies. And even when we're not covering these anymore, I'm going to watch the 6 movies. So I don't want to spoil at the end of the 6th movie, like Lone Wolf dies. Like I don't want to, you know what I mean? Like
Exactly,
I don't want to know that. Yeah. And apparently the manga was one of the main influences that helped libraries realize, we should start stocking these. Like the demand was so high for these books, especially the translated ones, that they're like, we should, this is a real thing. And it wasn't just this, but this is one of the ones that where people were like, people want this. We should, invest in this and make sure that they're available.
Do you mean in the sense that we should invest in foreign novels because they're Japanese, or the sense that you should invest in comics?
I think graphic novels, novels in general, collected editions of things that people want to read. Because you could shit on people, be like, all you read is comic books. But it's well, at least you're reading, right? At least you're taking the time to read a thing. And so I think libraries always trying to get people to read.
There's a lot of great, and I mean, we talk about this because we've had Heather on. There's a lot of comic books that are graphic novels that are fucking awesome. That are some of the greatest stories that are written of our time. So yes, there's a place.
Yeah, and this was also sort of one of the earlier manga to make it to America as well. And all those names you rifled off, Joey, like Bill Sienkiewicz, etc., all those guys, they were superstars of comic book genre and stuff. Yeah. And so for them to be this is what's hot and everything, it just spread throughout the industry as far as the creators, and it wasn't just the story but the art as well. Manga art influenced 90s American art so much in comics and everything, and it was just starting to seep in, and those guys were at the forefront and everything. And so that's really awesome to hear that also it helped libraries sort of take notice and say collected editions, comic books are literature, all that kind of thing. That was a big argument being stated, especially also around 85 when Frank Miller would do Dark Knight and Watchmen would be collected into a trade paperback and stuff. It was just at that point there's no turning back.
The toothpaste is out of the tube, so to speak.
Truth.
There are 2 full-fledged television series based on the manga that have been broadcast to date. The first, Lone Wolf and Cub, was produced in some word I can't pronounce format and broadcast from 73 to 76, 45-minute long episodes. Second episode was deleted from all rebroadcasts, and I don't know why.
Interesting.
But they were 26 or 27 episodes per season. It finally came out on DVD 30 years later, but no subtitles. And so people were like, I guess we just can't watch this show. And then eventually, a couple years later or whatever, somebody else re-released it with subtitles. So I don't know how available they are, but I think you can kind of get your hands on them if you want to watch this 3-season show. And then there was a TV series from 2002 to 2004 that's not available on DVD but also it's just another thing called Lone Wolf and Cub. And there was also an arcade game, like a console, like a tower or whatever. It's called Samurai Assassin, but you have a cart with, I think, a kid. Oh no, he's carrying his infant son on his back, and there's a baby cart power-up that lets you mow down enemies with blasts of fire, which sounds pretty awesome.
Who
and
made
it's
the
only
game?
released in arcades.
Who made the game? Because it sounds like it was in that like
Nichibutsu?
I don't know.
Nichibutsu. I don't know if it was in America or Japan or both. Doesn't say here on Wiki, but
It's okay.
Came out in 1987, only in arcades. But the craziest thing of all,
Go ahead.
in terms of the backstory here, and then we can talk about the movie, is all six Lone Wolf and Cub, came out between 72 and 74. The first three all were by the same writer and director, I think, and they all came out like they did them like back to back to back. And then the fourth one, I think, also comes out in 72. So they released 4 of these in 1 year.
Jesus.
Sounds like Marvel. And then there's one in 73 and there's one in 74.
You got to do it before the kid grows up, I guess.
Yeah.
And also, like, Marvel isn't like one writer director set of actors, right? So it's like
Right.
that's crazy.
And from what I understand, it's yeah. Oh, and the kid who plays Daigoro, he only ever acted as this kid. Like he's in all 6 movies and then just never acted again. So
Wow.
I mean,
Interesting.
he's acting, but he's not acting, right? Like he's
Yeah. And
kind of
guys,
existing.
did it dawn on you, Daigoro and Grogu? It's like so similar, just
Sure.
like
Yeah.
completely lifted. It's crazy how much like other media there is based around this stuff. I got my hands on that first series of the TV show and watched one of the discs, and yeah, it's way different. Well, I wouldn't say way different. It's just different, told in a different order, and they can take more time with the TV show and stuff. But so far, I like the movies better. I like the compact, sort of direct, sort of storytelling in the movies a little bit more. It's crazy
The
how much
styling
there is.
is this. I'm assuming that the styling can't touch this.
From what I remember when I was watching it, it's not nearly like as blood-soaked. I
Yes.
don't think they could get away with all that on television. Not as much nudity either, from what I understand.
Now, Joe, did you watch the Lone Wolf and Cub movies or just Shogun Assassin?
I have only ever watched Shogun Assassin. I've never watched any of the further Lone Wolf and Cub movies. I read, I think, the first Lone Wolf and Cub novel.
Like the first manga of the 28?
Maybe the first or the first 3, I don't remember, because it was like in a weird, I had like a digital format, so it was like all of them. I don't know how far it was. But no, I only have ever seen Shogun Assassin, so I'm very excited to continue with this because I want to see the rest of them.
Because and Mike, you watched the first 2 Lone Wolf Cub, I think I saw, right?
Yeah, and prior to
Yeah.
that, I had only seen Shogun Assassin, so those
Right.
were my first time watching the uncut stuff.
I saw Shogun Assassin for the 3rd time last night, and then today I watched 1 and 2. Joe, they
was it
both like a
different?
game of death. Like they completely retextualize a lot of stuff, and like I don't
Oh,
know that
yeah.
Shogun Assassin is bad, but like the
Lone Wolf and
first
Cub
2
1
are
and 2
definitely
much better.
absolutely worth seeing. Because like I think the first one in particular, it's like they frame why he's doing what he's doing in a much more meaningful and impactful way. Because like Shogun Assassin is 85 minutes, I think, and it's like 70 of the second movie and 10 of the first movie plus a couple of minutes of credits. So like they
Okay.
almost entirely eradicate the first movie, and then they take stuff and they recontextualize and they spin stuff in the second
Yeah.
movie. I was kind of like I was expecting the originals to be better, but like I think Shogun Assassin is still good, but like it's weird. Would you like, Mike? Do you think it's good or bad or just weird and different?
So it's weird and different. Like I like it. It reminds me of what they ended up doing with a lot of the Godzilla stuff by like recutting it, overdubbing it, changing storylines, omitting stuff, adding stuff, like just completely having their way with it. And that's kind of what they did with Shogun Assassin. Only I feel like it's kind of at times more awesome because I really like the voiceover, I like the music, and here's the difference, right? Like it feels
Okay.
like Shogun Assassin is from the perspective of the boy, and Lone Wolf and Cub is more from the perspective of the adult, of the
Almost
father.
entirely from the perspective of the adult.
Yeah,
Like the kid like
yeah.
doesn't do anything.
Right. So it's kind of like watch them both and you get the whole story, you know?
Yeah.
It's 2 totally different perspectives of the same situations.
And you don't have dubbing in the first ones?
No,
Nope.
no.
See, I love the dubbing in this. It's like one of my favorite parts about these kind of movies. Like, obviously they get shit on for like, you know, being bad translations a lot of the time when they dub these movies, but I find something like so comforting about the dubbings. Like they're just like they're just so weird and zany and like the laughing and stuff like that, and that's why I never really pushed to watch them separately, because I was like, I don't know if you could beat this dubbing.
So there's a real split decision on Letterboxd about Shogun Assassin. Like,
Okay.
there's one person I follow who gave it 1 star. It's like, this shouldn't even exist. It's like, well, I mean, it brought it to America. Like, without it, it wouldn't be in Kill Bill. Like, we might not know it, right? Like, there's a chance that, like, it's fine. Like, I don't think...
Wu-Tang.
Also, yeah, like, the Jizza, like, the entire Liquid Swords album is basically entirely sampled from Shogun Assassin. Like, it's just, like... I think to reference somebody who's not here, but who's forever in our hearts, Brian Slumber Party Rodriguez, to use his word, like, I think Shogun Assassin is more iconic because of the way that it has influenced, like, the Jizza and Wu-Tang and everything like that. Like,
Yes.
I think... Because, like, when I think of that movie, the first thing I think of is a little kid talking, and, like, that's not at all in Lone Wolf and Cub. And then the other totally badass, awesome thing, which Mike, you mentioned, is, like, the synthy score by Mark Lindsay of the Paul Revere Band, whatever. Like, it rules. And, like, the original music is good, but, like, this is, like, it recontextualizes it in a totally different way. In a good way, I think. Like, not that the original is bad, but, like, the music that they bring to Shogun Assassin is just, it's so good.
It's so good.
Yeah, it's so good. It's like,
fucking awesome.
It rivals The Shining at times with, like I would love to hear this score in that movie. But Joey, I think you hit on something where it's like the reputation of this film is so, like, steeped in mystery to me. Like, I remember as a kid hearing, like, rumors about it existing. Like, it was an underground bootleg for a long time. Like, you could only get it, like, at comic conventions, from what I understand. Like, I have a bootleg. Like, you know, I popped it in the other day, and I was like, oh, fuck, I forgot. Like, this looks like shit. Like, it's totally just like a VCR rip I got when, you know, like in 2000 or something like that to replace my tape. I was like, holy crap. And it's what I'm used to. I think it's just what everybody's really used to. That's great. I think there's merit to that. Like, that deserves some stars. And as you also said, like, there's quite possibly the possibility that it kind of, like, revived the entire series and saved a lot of, like, you know, the old films, maybe even in the show, and getting the popularity up and again. And for the Criterion Collection to release it, you know, it's prestigious now. And so, like, it's got its place in history.
And, like, what's cool is that on the Criterion, so the Criterion Blu-ray is 3 discs, and on the first movie, there's the 3 movies. Second disc, there's the movies 4 through 6. And then the third disc has Shogun Assassin remastered by Criterion, which is amazing. And then all the bonus features and stuff and whatever. I don't know if we would know the answer, but, you know, we did Lady Snowblood because Tarantino ripped entire things from that, like in the Oren Ishii stuff, right?
Yep.
And we're doing this because it's referenced, I'm not going to spoil why or how or when, but it's referenced in Kill Bill 2, right? And I'm wondering if, like, if Shogun Assassin never existed, would the movie have been in that scene, oh, it's Lone Wolf and Cub? Because I can see, like, it's the same thing, right? You just wouldn't hear, because you don't see the movie, I don't think. You just hear the kid talking. And that's what's
she
cool.
says, I want to watch Shogun Assassin tonight.
We won't say who that she is.
It's interesting, though, because I feel like I don't know that it would, because it seems to be in there for that specific dialogue in Shogun Assassin, and Lone Wolf and Cub doesn't have any of that. But then again, Tarantino might still be referencing that because he's such a film geek or whatever. Like, he would still know.
Thematically and, like, character-wise, it correlates.
I'm sure he would have found another movie also, you know, like, but that's what else is so kind of special about Shogun Assassin is that, like, most of my other kind of like bootleg tapes are kung fu, you know, like the Shaolin stuff, you know. I don't have a hell of a lot of samurai movies. They're a lot harder to come across. I think there were just sort of less of them. If this is the only one you can get your hands on, like, you're gonna love it to bits, right? And it's got plenty of reason for you to love it. I mean, it's an amazing flick. Like,
dude, it's so cool. This is one of the only movies that I have shown to a bunch of people that gets, like, great reception every time. I show this to my friends, like, people will be like, I love Wu-Tang, and I'll be like, do you ever see Shogun Assassin? They're like, I fucking love this. They're like, I love kung fu movies. You're like, do you ever see Shogun Assassin? Like, fucking love it. Like, if you're fans of Tarantino, you watch this and you're like, oh my god, yeah, I see everything in it. So, like, I put it on in a room full of people that had no correlate, like, they all had their own reasons for why they would enjoy it, and everybody was like, this movie's amazing.
I think what this movie does well is that it's accessible. Like, it's that's it. Like, you can't be like, hey, so, like, this is a really cool movie, but, like, it's subtitled. People are like, nah, I don't want. Like, just because, like, the attitude toward those kind of movies, again, I don't know if one's better than the other. I do think that watching the first two, because, like, you know, we're besieged by so many origin stories today, and yet people who only watch Shogun Assassin don't really know the origin story of the lone wolf. Right? It's this weird like of what Ito does. Like there's so much of the first movie that just gets left behind. I think the right way to watch it maybe is be like, okay, here, watch Shogun Assassin, and then okay, now there's 6 movies, go watch all 6 of those.
Yeah,
or
you
whatever.
guys convinced me. I'm gonna go back and watch the first 2 before we do 3 for sure.
I absolutely agree with that. I absolutely agree with that, and I'm glad that's the way I sort of came to it because you go back. It's almost like watching a prequel because so little of that film is used, and what is used is sort of altered in a lot of ways as far as like what they're talking about and things. And one thing, that first movie, which I like a little less than that, I think the second movie is fucking great. Like, I think it's amazing. It's such an awesome movie. But the first one, it's really kind of mired with a lot of exposition, a lot of politics, a lot of clan feuding, and it's kind of dizzying and hard to get a hold of. And if that was the first thing you watched, you might be a little turned off, But if having watched Shogun Assassins, that this guy's gonna rip shit up, then like you might be a little more invested into how he got there.
And like I agree. I think the second one's probably more fun, but like I like the first one more maybe because it was new. Because like so much of the second one is like it's not exactly Shogun Assassin, but like it's mostly.
Yeah.
And so the first one, I'm like, oh, this is almost all brand new, and there's like a lot of cool stuff in it. I mean, they're all good. And I was originally like, I was trying to figure out if I was going to watch 1, 2, then Shogun, and then I was like, I think that's probably what I'm going to do, and like just kind of like half watch Shogun because like I've seen it before, and I had literally just sort of seen it with the 2 movies, and then just the way that like my week panned out, I was like, oh, I can't watch, like I'll watch Shogun Assassin first, and I'm glad I did because it re-brings you into the world if you've seen it before, and then you sort of see where it came from. And I mentioned earlier, like it kind of Game of Deaths it because like in a way, like it's not because Bruce Lee died and they're trying to finish a movie, but it's like, okay, we have these 2 things, like how do we recut it in a way
Still makes sense, yeah.
because like in Baby Car the River Styx, like the second one, like so Shogun Assassin, he turns against the Shogun, and like the big thing he has to kill at the end is like the Shogun's brother, right? Like he's being escorted back. That's not at all the story in 2. Like the story in 2 is that like this town is like cooking the books basically and making way more money because they have this like illegal indigo dyeing scheme, like underground ring.
Right,
and so the guy that's being transported, like he's a turncoat that's going to the Shogun to be like, hey, here's how they make money. Let's cut them out and kill them and like make the money ourselves. And so like it's the same scene but has different meaning, and like it's not, again, one's not better than the other, but like I'm like, I don't remember indigo at all in Shogun Assassin. And it's because it's not.
It's not, yeah.
It's amazing though, but that is the fucking power of cinema, man. Like you can, juxtapose any 2 shots to create a new meaning, right? Like you can take this footage, and I mean, it almost reminds me of, Snyder Cut, right? Like look at Justice League and look at Snyder. It's like the same footage, but 2 different people got their hands on it, and they're going to rearrange it and change it in different ways and make you feel different ways.
So that actually reminds me, and I can't believe I didn't think of this like with what I had in my head, but there's a new show on Showtime's app and VOD called Cinema Toast. Okay, but you think about that. So here, I'm just surprised that this hasn't happened before.
Okay.
But I read about this on Metacritic. So it's an anthology series that Mark Duplass is, but like they make everything for everybody.
Yeah.
But they took public domain movies and they re-edited and redubbed them to create new stories. And there's like Nick Offerman and Megan Mullally and Alison Brie and Fred Armisen, and it's filled with people.
Yeah.
But like it's the same thing. It's like, what can we have? What exists in the world that we can like cheaply, inexpensively, with COVID safe, whatever. Now, like how do we retell a story? And the same thing, like again, my power of cinema. I don't know if this is good or not. I haven't watched it yet, but like it's crazy that like that's even possible.
I can't believe that that's not done more often, right? Like, don't you think that like a bunch of like film students would be like, okay, look, we can't afford to shoot a movie, but if we just take like the same guy from these 6 movies.
Well, Mike, that's what you've been talking about on Monsters Made Us too, right? Like they used to do that back in the day, like shooting things and reusing things and like
taking
Michael Bay
footage. Right, sort of, reusing footage from silent films that someone may not have seen or anything like that. But like, there is a huge example that I think that would sort of clarify, at least for me, it makes all this make a lot more sense too, is the original Godzilla movie. When it came over to America, it was retitled Godzilla King of the Monsters and recut. They had an American actor basically shot new scenes and inserted his storyline into the movie. And what it does is it crosses the translation barrier. Like, things get lost in translation all the time if you try to do like a direct adaptation or bring it over exactly as it is. So you have to recontextualize things for a different audience on the other side of the world that are just used to different things, you know, that wouldn't understand one thing being called something, so you have to have it called something else that you're more familiar with, or what have you. But I think this and that Godzilla, that first Godzilla, are like really great examples of, you know, these kinds of experiments, successful ones. I'll say that, you know what I'm saying? Like, it happens all the time, but that first American Godzilla version, it's just from a completely different perspective, very much in the way they did these movies, the way they recut these.
The other difficulty is that not only just like in the societal things that don't translate, or, you know, historical things, because like all of Godzilla comes from the fact that they got nuclear bomb, like right, like it's all like fear. It's like all like everything in Japan to a certain extent has like been predicated on the fact that they were bombed in World War II, and it's just like, how do we recover from this? Essentially, like, what are our fears? How do they manifest? Whatever. And so like we have a different experience, right? Like, we didn't get bombed, and so like it's just like, oh, cool, big lizard guy, right? Like, it's a different thing. The other nuance, I think, is language. At the end of Shogun Assassin, when he fights these three brothers, who I think in Shogun Assassin they're called the Masters of Death, which is way cooler than like they're just called Benten Rai, the three assassins. It's just like, okay.
The Monks of Death, because that's their names. Ben, Ten, and Rai are their names.
It's like, okay, Shogun Assassin. Like, you made that a little bit better. That one guy gets cut and he has that line. He's like, your technique is magnificent when cut across the neck. A sound like wailing winter winds is heard. I'd always hoped to cut someone like that someday to hear that sound, but to have it happen to my own neck is ridiculous. Then like, it's funny, and it's just like, and then he dies, right? In Lone Wolf and Cub, it's so much more flowery and poetic and like maybe cooler. He says, my neck, my own, and this is, again, it's translated in the subtitles, but it's him just speaking it. So again, this might not be verbatim, but he says, my neck, my own neck, it sounds like it's wailing. My neck was sliced open diagonally. The cut wails like a cold winter wind. They call it Mugari Bu, the whistle of a fallen tiger. I've always wished to kill someone just once and create such a fine cut as to sing this tune. Now I'm hearing it from my own neck. What a laugh. At the end of the day, like, the context is the same, right? Like, I wanted to hear the sound. I always heard the sound. It happened to me. That sucks. Like, what, right? But, like, there's something so much more meaningful, I think, about the original. It's funnier in Shogun Assassin. Like, I think it's, again, you know, iconic. I'm sure that just, like, use that line somewhere. But there's something that feels grander about the original. And I don't know if that, I don't know if that makes sense, but, like, it's a different kind of thing because, like, you're not translating to fit this other medium.
I think you hit something else too, where you said it's grander. I think everything in Lone Wolf and Cub feels more important and grander, and like the stakes seem higher. You know, it's ultimately different filmmaking style, and everything is way more extended and held longer and feels like it has so much more importance. And so, like, when you get, you know, a scene like, not just a scene like that, but like you take the two situations on the boat, Joey, right, where like the boat is set on fire in Shogun Assassin, and it's like easy breezy, they're right out there. But in Lone Wolf and Cub, it's a whole fucking thing. Like, it's, you know, he's got to find a way up. You see them get out. Like, he pole vaults, he throws the, like, it's insane. Like, I feel like it's much longer, and everything just seems to have more importance to it. And you know, possibly that all comes from having it to be truncated, picking and choosing what they wanted to use, and then of course translating things the best that they probably could, and then again on another level, the director wanting to make this scene end with a laugh or something like that, or anything else, because, you know, I think that was smart. It almost gets a little too dire in the originals. Like, it almost lacks a sense of humor, you know? And when you have blood splurting and flying the way it does, spraying like in supernatural formations and things, like, you need some of this comic relief, basically. And like, I think I'll split the difference on this comparison.
And I don't want to dwell too much on the movies that Joe hasn't seen, but I think that there's like other things that, like, by watching, by not combining them, like by having the first movie where like this life feels exhausting, whether you're in the Shogun Assassin world or the Lone Wolf and Cub world. Like, this dude is just killing dudes and just like he can never really stay still. Always. And, you know, he's killed 345 people or whatever. Like, there's a little joke there about by Cubs, like 345. The second movie begins, and like there's this kind of like horror music where there's like twangy sounds that like he's like constantly looking over his shoulder, and you can't really do that when it's one movie. But because we've already seen an entire movie of his, you have the ability to like have a backstory for him where he's like worried that he's going to be killed by literally anyone because he's crossed everyone, right?
Yeah.
And then at the end of the second movie, like we don't see what happens to the Supreme Ninja, like that badass lady who has like, you know, the Suki of that world where she's got all the female assassins that like go out and do their thing. But like she still has the greatest thing where she jumps out of her clothes and like hops backwards.
Hops
off screen.
backwards.
Like,
Yeah.
man,
So
it's
good.
the weirdest
It's
thing in any of
so
these
weird.
movies. But like at the end in Shogun Assassin, he doesn't kill her because he knows that she's gonna have to go back to the Shogun and admit that she failed and then kill herself out of shame, right? But in Lone Wolf and Cub, she's in the final shot and she's not dead. That's sadder. Like that's like a more impactful, like kind of like bigger burn. But like I don't think you have the time to have that when you're doing 2 movies in 80 minutes.
Yeah, like her entire arc is pretty much eliminated, probably just for expedience and everything. And yeah, I get a whole different sort of sense of her as a character in both movies, right? Like, I think at the end, yeah, it's way more tragic, I guess. I don't know. She just seems to be way more conflicted. She wants to be with the wolf, but he's now leading the life of a demon and must walk alone with his son, and she cannot compare. There's a lot more going on in those. But one thing you did touch on though that I definitely agree with is like we had that first movie, Joey, so like you're right, in the second movie it's just they waste no time. Like it is just sort of like way more action packed. There's a lot less sort of like fussing around or any of that kind of thing, and so like they're able to just jump into the action and get into the adventure and all that kind of stuff. And I expect that to be sort of down the line what we can come to see is just like more of these sort of quests that he goes on.
I genuinely have no idea where they go, and like all these titles are like Baby Cart in Hell, Baby Cart in Hades, Baby Cart in the River Styx. It's like I don't know what this means. Like like he's haunted. Like I don't get. I don't know. It's not like Baby Cart versus the Shogun or something, right? Like I don't know.
The American titles are incredible: Lightning Swords of Death, Slashing Blades of Carnage, 5 Fistfuls of Gold, Cold Road to Hell.
The title card of the first movie where he's walking down that road and he's got red flames on his right and blue flames on his left. I'm like,
oh my
this
God.
fucking rules. Like, this is the coolest thing. I'm like, oh, I'm in already. Like this, like 4 minutes and I'm like, oh, this is the right decision. Like watching these together. But okay. So Joe, let's talk about Shogun Assassin. What do you love about this movie? Favorite scenes, favorite moments, cool moments?
Coolest moments. It's so hard to pick coolest moments. Like as I was watching through it, I was like, what can I pick? I think that for me, in Shogun Assassin, the absolute coolest moment is him throwing the sword through the wall and just like catching that guy and just they're like, how do we know that you're a badass? And he just like throws a sword through the wall and kills the man that was like hiding
The Shogun
there.
could have sent him. Who knows?
That's his deal. Like later he'll throw the sword at the guy in the desert and the guy's like, wait, you could like throw your sword? Like what? You could do that? I didn't know we could do that. Ugh.
And also, like, it feels like in this era, like, guns are just starting to become a thing. Because, like, in the Lone Wolf and Cub movies, like, in both movies, there's, like, a guy with a gun. There's, like the bottom of the baby cart is bulletproof.
Like
it's got
the
the iron
historical
thing.
stories behind this, right? That like Japan was closed, so they didn't have guns. And then like when the Dutch came over and like started trading, like one of the first things they traded them were guns. Being Japanese, they like took the guns and they were like, okay, cool, we can just make these now. Like they just got like 3 of them or something. And we're like, let's recast them.
You got to listen to the Ninja Turtles 3 episode of Third Time's a Charm, Joey, because Joe 2 mentions that on the episode also. Believe it or not, that came up. We're like, why are there guns back then? And Joe just dropped that same science.
Yeah. And think like you don't have the internet for everyone to be like, oh yeah, we have guns now. So they're still like samurai.
Because in these movies, they're like, oh, and they got a guy with a gun. we have no shot against that. It's just like, one guy with a gun. I mean, they got a gun. Like we can't win. Like we need to hire the best assassin in the land because they got the one guy with the gun. Like we don't have a chance. Like we have cool killers, but like we got no shot.
Something that I noticed when I was watching it this time is that it plays so well with silence. And like as cool as we think the score and soundtrack is, there's lots of moments where they use like total quiet. It works so well, and I think that that's such a hard thing for me to do. Like the empty space thing lets stuff fill in itself. Amazing to me when I watch this movie. Like, and it was jarring because like we've been watching so much stuff that it's just like all sound all the time. So for him to like start the movie and just have like that part where it's just feet patter.
Well, it's like the calm before the storm, right? Like
Yeah.
shit's about to go down. Like let's take a moment.
Mm-hmm. and it really lets you enjoy what's about to happen.
And there's one part in The Lone Wolf and Cub, and I don't remember, I know it's a scene that's in Shogun Assassin, but I don't remember if it's the same thing, but I think there's one part, I think, where they intentionally mute, because he's holding the cub, and he's just bawling. He's just, the actor is just shouting, like, I don't want to be doing this. And then they dub voiceover for, like, you know, like Lone Wolf is, like, saying stuff. But I'm like, oh, I know why, I know why there's no sound here. It's because this kid was shouting on set. They're like, this is the one we're going with.
Yeah, it's also great too, because like if you're getting used to just hearing like selected sounds in a certain scene, like you're just hearing the footsteps or you're just hearing the leaves rattle, when these guys get cut, when you hear that blood spray, that is what I feel like they're building toward, you know, is to like get you accustomed to sort of, you know, the impact of one sound. And it's also kind of seems like that's what the samurai, or you know, the lone wolf, like his sort of like level of perception, he's like zoning in on all these little things at these times. The original's also cut to silence a lot, like a lot more than I was expecting. It drops out, and I think it is to sort of like sharpen the impact when the sound hits and be like, okay, yeah, it's very much more meaningful and stuff.
Now that you brought it up, like the blood spray, the blood sound, and the color that they use is all just amazing. I can see why so many filmmakers have just like totally tried to jack this, because it's just like, it's so cool. Like the first time you see this, you're just like, it's amazing, and like I want to do this in every it must be like what Kanye feels like when he discovered like auto-tune, you know what I mean? He's just like, yep, like we're just gonna do that all the time now, like that's exactly what I want.
It just seems so much different from like the kung fu stuff, which is like way faster, and like guys are getting cut all the time, but they're still fighting with their guts hanging out, and they're like not effective. Here it's like one hit and you're dead, and like you die this spectacular like romantic death of like
that too,
spray in the air and it's like, so it just, everything has such an impact. It feels so meaningful.
I really enjoy the like cut for people, they all pause and then fall at the same time. That makes it feel more theatrical. Everything about this movie makes me so happy when I watch it. Like, it's just very, very awesome to me.
There is a trend, which Mike, you mentioned earlier, but there's actually two trends that we've noticed this lap that both show up here again. But the bathroom thing, like you talked about the outdoor, like the saunas and stuff. Brian has been bringing our attention to the fact that like there's a lot of bathroom stuff in a lot of Japanese movies. We're like, I don't know if that's true or not. And then we're like, oh yeah, no, it's very true. Like they're in everywhere.
Everywhere.
In Shogun Assassin, there is the line, sometimes the kid says, sometimes you have to take a chance if you want to take a bath. And I was like, hell yeah, kid, you get it.
Dude, we use that line in my household so often. I butchered it and I said, sometimes you gotta take a risk if you want to take a bath. But like, we use that line all the time when it's like, oh, I'm gonna take a shower. It just happens so often because like that is burned into my brain in this weird way, because it's just such like a goofy line from this movie.
Yeah, and like again, to prove the point I think we were making before, is that like that's more memorable than what it is in Lone Wolf and Cub. But like in Lone Wolf and Cub, they go to this place and like they're walking down the street and everyone's like, please come in, please stay with us. Like there's all these different like inns or hotels or whatever, and they go in one and the owner's like, they don't have money. Look at them. Look, they're poor. Like they don't have money, and like they're gonna take our services and run out without paying the bill. He's like, oh, here's the here's my, my fee for killing a person. Like, can you just hold on to this money for us? And the guy's like, oh my God, like, thank you so much, sir. Like, we're so sorry. Like, here. And then that's when the kid like splashes the guy in the face. He's like, fuck you. Like, just like, we're not poor. We just, don't have a home, right? Like, It's a different thing. Like, it's a cool thing. But again, like, it's not more memorable than sometimes you have to take a chance if you want to take a bath. But like, it kind of is better. I don't know. It's weird. Like, they both work.
I love how intuitive the kid is. Like how, he picks up on when he picks up on that. You know what I'm saying? Like he can tell like he's not wanted, and then suddenly he's wanted, so he's gonna like take advantage of that. But he's only 1 year old. Like, how does he know that? Because he's this guy's kid, and like later he'll even score a kill in one of the movies.
Yes,
like it's wild. And also in that first Lone Wolf and Cub, Joe, if you remember, they go to that one town that's like overrun with bandits, and they're hanging out at the other bathhouse with like the prostitute, and he just like has sex with her in front of everybody.
The prostitute is the best thing it's the best thing that gets cut from either movie, I think, because she's in Shogun Assassin, I think, right?
I think there's a shot of her.
So he's going to this like this town where there's like all these hot springs, right? And he walks up there, and there's just a woman being like brutally raped on the street, and it's like, oh Jesus Christ! And then she's killed and left for dead there. It's just like, it's awful. Like, he just walks into this town. This is where the band of people he's trying to kill have wound up, and they've like chased, or they've killed, or there's like no women left in town. There's only one prostitute left. Like, why do they want him to have sex with her? Just like so that they can like shame him, I think.
So I think the idea was like, they basically were like, someone's gonna do it, it's gonna be one of us, and he's like, no, like, I'll do it. And then he does it, and he just lays on top of her instead of raping her, and that's like his idea is like, I'll volunteer, and the idea is like, I'll volunteer because I'm not gonna force myself on her or anything. He just lays on top of her, from what I remember.
But then what's great is that she's like, imagine, like, none of you could have gotten it up when you were like terrified for your life, but this guy, he knew how to satisfy a woman. They're like, oh god damn it. And then like at the end, like when there's the big battle, like he just like tips the baby cart, and like she comes and like rescues the baby, and like, just gets out of there. But like he does her a solid, no pun intended, and then she gets his back, right? So like it's a whole cool subplot that just is not really in the Shogun Assassin at all, because like there's only 10 minutes of this movie, and like it's kind of like all the flashback stuff. It's like the wife, but like the wife getting murdered is like such a longer sequence. And there's like the sword versus the ball, like that's
the sword versus the ball thing
so
is so fucking cool. The dubbing and the weird language of it makes it so much more memorable to me. Like, it's the coolest scene ever to begin with, but then choose the ball or choose the sword.
Choose the sword and you will join me. Choose the ball and you will join your mother in death. You don't understand me, but you must choose. So come, son, choose life or death.
Yes. Come, son, choose life or death.
And then later in the movie, when like they're, when baby...
Oh, the well?
When Cub gets kidnapped and is dangling over the well, and they're like, we'll kill him. And Ito goes, kill him if you dare. My son and I have already embraced our fate. I'm like, no, he hasn't. He's like 3.
He still doesn't understand. Yeah.
He says something in Lone Wolf and Cub. He says the line's closer to like, your mom's waiting for you in Hades. Don't worry.
What? Yeah.
It's insane.
It's so good. It's so good.
One thing I don't understand about either of these movies is why, when they're on the boat and they strip down to stay warm, what is the kid doing, like knocking on nipples? Because he knocks on both of their nipples, and it's like, I don't like. What is this a thing that I?
Oh, so I think what that is from, Joey. If you remember in Lone Wolf 1, it's also like, not only is he an assassin for hire, but you could rent his kid out for stuff. And there's a scene where like this crazy woman who
lost a baby,
lost her baby, comes running up to the baby cart and takes the kid and starts breastfeeding it. And then the grandma like tries to compensate, and Shogun's like, I mean, the
you think he just sees a nipple and thinks milk's going to come out of it?
Yeah, so I think what was going on there is he was checking to see if the bottle was like ripe. You know what I'm saying? Like he's like, he was just checking to see like, is there any milk? I honestly, like, I think he was just like,
You're
it's
probably
one of those
right.
innocent baby moments, because there was, I think, a scene where he looks at his dad's nipples and he's like, those aren't right.
I think in Lone Wolf and Cub, he knocks on his dad once, and then he goes up to a woman like, this looks more right, and then like knocks again, like he's just like using his finger like sort of like strum like it's like a guitar, and just like, and like nothing happened. Like he does it again, like he goes back to that proverbial well, right? Because he's like, this feels like something should come out of here, but again, he's 3, like he doesn't know anything.
He's probably just hungry.
Yeah, and I think it's a lot for the reaction of the woman too, to be like, oh my god, like I never thought like I'd be able to be someone that could care for something, or anyone would depend on me like this, or you know what I'm saying? Like it almost seems like it's more done for the reaction of who it's done to and stuff, to be like, have this realization like, oh my god, we're all so like exposed right now, and she's not being used to that ever. But it's a crazy scene. I mean,
it is fucking wild to see him just be like, tink, like just
how smart, like, and that, like, so like that idea, he's like, we don't have a fire, so we have to use body heat. And then later when he gets not his ass kicked, but like, he kills like 30 people and then he collapses or whatever, Daigoro goes down to the lake to get him water, and he like can't cup it, so like he has the brilliant idea of like putting it in his mouth and running up to his dad and spitting it in his dad's mouth, like, like it's so cool.
Also, like this kid, he talks about in at least in Shogun Assassin, like his dad's kill counts in the 300s, right? And like that's only since he started counting. Kid's got a body count too. Like he kills at least one person on like the cart with all the knives and all the different things. Like he knows where to tap to like put a knife out. Like this kid's got blood on his hands too, so maybe he has embraced his fate. I don't know.
The cart with the knives and the wheels and just like him tapping shit to pop knives out is also very, very cool to me. This felt the most Fast and the Furious to me, like, related.
Is this Dom's baby carriage for his son?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Why don't we see more? We see that a ton in James Bond now that Joey brings it up. Don't we see like a lot of like cars that have like tires that can like pop other tires in James Bond?
Yeah, that's like where it all kind of came from, right? Is like the trick
Yeah.
cars that are all tricked out with like smoke and slicks and like
Yeah.
ejector seats and yeah.
But that's what I was, and when I'm watching this, I'm like, oh yeah, like that is such a fucking cool thing that you have like knives that come out of your cart to like cut their feet off, and like the knife is spinning in a circle, right? So like you're just gonna get poked by this thing. You're not gonna like lose a foot because it's not flat. So
Here's a question for you guys, because it feels like obviously the Shogun, like the Shogun's he's the executor, right? Like he, Lone Wolf is like he's got he's the best swordsman, he's the most trusted guy, he's got the best fighting skills, all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
But it seems like through most of these movies, he just has a sharper, stronger sword that like just slices through other swords. Like
It's got a name at one point, right? Like the Horse Slayer or something they call it.
like people block him. It seems like, oh yeah, like this should, this will do the trick, and like it just cuts through it. It's like, what the fuck? That's not fair. Like that.
yeah,
it
he
feels
cuts swords in half all the
he's
time.
great, but it also feels like, oh no, like he's got a better sword, which again, Tori Hanzo steel, right? Like it's the same, it's whatever, but still, I don't know. It's a little column A, little column B.
I think that's part of it, but if at one point I can't remember when or if it's in Shogun Assassin, like he gets the sword taken away from him and he still manages pretty well without it until he gets it back, and like he picks up other people's weapons and kills them with it and stuff. And I think it could partially be that he's got like, the greatest steel. However, like, it's not just the steel, it's the guy or girl wielding it and everything, right? Like, so I feel like there's something more like also where like when he walks up on you and they're like, prepare to die, and he's like, I'm already dead, I'm basically a demon, I've given up being a human, then you're like, shit. Like psychologically, like he's fucking with you also. So I think there's a lot of that going on where it's like he's just got this image and this reputation too to back up all of his ass kicking.
Yeah.
There is another trend. I was saying there's two before. The second trend that comes up in this movie that we noticed in a few movies recently is we get more little kid nudity. Like just, I mean,
More
it's
wieners. That's true.
for point, but like, Mike, there's like, this is the third or fourth movie that we've watched where just like a little Asian kid is naked. And it's like, there's a reason here. Like Lone Wolf takes his clothes off to like keep him warm, but there's other ones just like little kids running through town naked, and like they comment, like it's not just like, oh, this is like a poor town where kids, like they comment on the fact that like, oh, remember that little naked kid? It's like, wait, what is happening? Like why does this keep happening?
So much child nudity. Yeah, what was it? Lady Snowblood, maybe?
Lady Snowblood had it, and there's another one too.
I mean, this also comes to mind, brings something up in my mind where it's like ratings, right? Like another reason I feel like Shogun Assassin was so hard to find in the days because it's basically rated X in America for violence, and like I wonder what's going on with ratings in Japan around this time. Like, are there any? What is this rated? Like, what? I mean, because there is so much violence, so much nudity, like way more nudity than I would have expected or anything. It just seems like very adult, and I was not ready, I guess, for how X or R rated it came across.
There's something interesting that I found about the nudity is that largely the nudity is not sexual. Like
That's true.
It's breasts being presented for food, or it's women getting stabbed in the breast or whatever. The only, I think, unless I miss something, the only like sexual presentation of a breast is in Lone Wolf and Cub 1, where that prostitute just like kind of seductively walks over to him. But like for the most part, like there's nudity. I guess maybe it's just like, literally to titillate, whatever, but like it's not there to like, oh hey, look, like these are like boobs that you want to like get aroused to. It's just like, oh no, like these are all like, these are not erotic boobs. These are just like functional boobs or like bloody been destroyed boobs.
That makes sense because growing up I've just I mean, maybe it's a stereotype, but you hear about how like sexually repressed Japanese culture is, and that's why you get like tentacle manga and things like that or whatever. But like that could be what we're seeing here, like the stabbing and the insertion and the explosion of the blood. Like it could all be metaphorical, like that's a possibility too. So like maybe this is just a result of such like a chase society or something, is just like they don't present it sexually, like it's just functionally. That could be, because that's also, I get the same sense in the warming each other scene, like there's nudity, but it's strictly for survival.
Right. Joe, any other notes, any other thoughts, any other connections or things you thought of that you want to share with Shogun Assassin? I'm looking through my other Lone Wolf and Cub notes now.
I have a question for you guys. Because we're doing the cool lap, who do you think is cooler, Lone Wolf or Cub?
Ooh.
Right now, Lone Wolf, but like when Cub is Lone Wolf's age, if he lives that long, it's gonna be Cub. Like Cub's gonna be cooler in like 5 years. Like just Cub doesn't have enough life in his bones.
But even in the movie, like right now, who is cooler?
Lone Wolf, I think. I think
Yeah.
without Lone Wolf being as cool as he is, Cub is not as cool. Like Cub's only as
Okay.
cool as he is because of Lone Wolf.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I was getting this real fucking badass vibe off of Lone Wolf. Like, I've also, and I don't think it's any mystery either. Like, there was a phase where I believe Wolverine became fashioned after the Lone Wolf. Like, he went to Japan and he had this whole samurai past and everything like that, you know, because he's like 1,000 years old or whatever. So, like, I'm sure he was fighting alongside these dudes at one point. And he looks a lot like, you know, the Lone Wolf does in this movie in those comics and stuff. He's got the wild, crazy Wolverine beard and everything, and he's got the gi on and the sword and stuff. So, like, he's just sort of like the epitome of cool.
I
Yeah,
do
that's
want to
true.
say, speaking of cool moments, I think maybe the coolest thing that Lone Wolf does in any of these movies is not translated to Shogun Assassin because it's a modern day in the first Lone Wolf and Cub movie. But like, you know, in the movie in Shogun Assassin where he's wearing those white robes and then he
Yes.
fights his way out and then
Yes.
eventually just like, I'm gonna swear vengeance on you, whatever.
Yeah.
That's a longer sequence in Lone Wolf and Cub Sword of Vengeance. And he's wearing the white and he does that thing and he goes outside and like he's kneeling down to essentially like to be killed, like the ritualistic suicide / execution, whatever.
Yeah.
And he takes his white robe off and he's in the hollyhock crest, which is like the Shogun's crest. And he's like, you've trained your men never to attack this crest, so good luck getting someone to attack me right now. And the Shogun is like, what? You can't do this. It's just like, oh my, like it's the coolest thing.
You
And he, like,
trickster.
leaves. Like that's such a cool, like I'm gonna fight my way out and then I know how this is gonna end. They're gonna put me in a circle and they're going to like make me stab myself and then cut off my head, but they're not gonna be able to if I'm wearing your shit. So like, good luck. He's like, you take those off. It's the coolest idea. It's beautiful. I love it.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
He's so smart.
Also, there's a monkey in the second movie. I don't think there's a monkey
There's a
in
monkey
Shogun
in
Assassin.
There is a
Oh, there
monkey
is?
in Shogun Assassin, yeah. Because I was thinking like, actually, there's like multiple scenes with the monkey, and I was kind of thinking like, were there monkeys in Japan? Like, I don't remember
Oh, there were when I was there in 1993. I mean,
like wild ones, like in
yeah, like we
Weird.
went to this place. It was like Monkey Mountain. I mean, for crying out, they're just everywhere. They're on the side. I have photos. It was like in the like Osaka region. So
I don't remember monkeys at all. I don't
Also,
know.
monkeys, Fastiverse, Spy Racers, Brazil,
Exactly.
Yoka 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 Yoka.
Donut was the monkey's
Donut.
name, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
wait, is is it like Congo? Is it like a smart monkey?
No, it's just
that
like a
racing-
little-
that races a car.
I don't remember the type of the monkey, but it's
Yeah,
just like a little. It's just like a little.
It looks
cute
like
monkey.
this. It looks like the
Oh,
monkey that
okay.
was in this movie.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
okay,
it-
okay.
And that somehow the monkey saves the world because it's like, I don't know.
Because it's Spy Racers. How long until we get like Clyde from Every Which Way But Loose showing up doing a cameo in the Fastiverse, driving a
They don't
Cadillac?
they don't like animals, dude. We've talked about this. They don't do animals at all. Like we have the
Yeah.
iguana. That's it. They don't even like
guess you're
dogs
right.
or cats in the movies.
Yeah, you can't risk them dying on screen, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I guess maybe no animal-human hybrids in the future when they fight Dr. Moreau's great-great-granddaughter or anything like that. I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe they get
Animorphs.
sucked into novels in the 12th one, you know?
Joe, any other thoughts? Any other notes?
No, that's just like a fucking awesome movie, and everybody should see it. And if you haven't, just go do it now.
Mike, any other thoughts or notes?
Yeah, I wish I had watched the Shogun Assassins on the nice, crisp, clean Criterion disc, but I'm kind of also glad I watched it on my crappy illegal bootleg from like the 90s.
I know,
Like,
right?
It just
Yeah.
had like such a visually fuzzy, because it's like 280p maybe, if that. But like 140, is that one? But like, yeah, it made me feel fuzzy inside again too about like the times I used to watch this thing. And I love the originals as well. Like, I think, you know, if you want the full story, if you want to know what the Cub is thinking while he's going through this adventure, watch Shogun Assassin. And then if you want to see the rest of the story, watch the Lone Wolf and Cub stuff. I'm really looking forward to watching the rest of this and
Same.
talking about it.
I'm gonna go back and watch the first two for sure. You guys definitely sold me. Get ready for when we do the third one, so that we like all see them. Yeah, you definitely sold me on it. I didn't know if I was gonna like rewatch them because I was like, oh, like I knew like how Shogun Assassin was, but you guys definitely convinced me that that's like the way to go. So
Well, because the first one is like basically brand new, and the second one is like recontextualized almost completely. So like it's definitely worth watching. The other good thing is that all 7 of these, the 6 Lone Wolf and Cub and Shogun Assassin, are all between like 80 and 89 minutes. Like,
they're
all
not
short.
they're not super long. It's a breezy watch too, right? For me at least, Shogun Assassin is because it's a lot of fighting. So
Yeah, I was gonna say like a lot still happens in these movies. I remember thinking like, wait a minute, there's only 10 minutes left and they still have to kill
It's
like
tight.
3 people?
Yeah.
It's like, this is crazy.
All right, you guys want to watch the trailer?
yes, I've never seen the trailer.
So we're going to watch a trailer for Shogun Assassin. Shogun Assassin HD trailer from Rolf, just uploaded February 4th, 2014. The most awesome trailer ever. Top comment, Wu-Tang.
It should just be called coolest trailer ever.
All right, 3, 2, 1, play.
The sand
Here's
is
the
super
desert
cool.
where the people are hiding.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
that's
a
so
really
cool.
cool scene. I agree.
It's never really explained in either version. It's just like, yeah, that's just where they hide to kill people.
Oh man, I can't believe they ruined that in the trailer.
Well, you don't know when it's coming.
That's true. But I mean, when you see sand, you're gonna be like, okay.
Mad wizards.
Mad wizards. Oh, the hypnotizing him with the dresses was cool too.
Behold the son
Oh, there he
of a
is.
legendary warrior,
He's so
a
cool.
loving father
Yeah, this is the music
who has
too.
the power of a dozen armies in one sweep of his mystic blade.
The sheathing the sword is probably one of the coolest moments. Like every time he does it, it's really
Or
cool.
like whipping the blood off it.
Yeah.
Man, they're showing like the final kills in the movie. I mean, again, to Mike's point, you don't know when those kills are, but like,
And a man
still.
became a demon.
Oh, my favorite kill though, I think, is in that final fight where like he attacks and the guy like does like this like jumping like somersault spinning jump like way up in the air. Lone Wolf chases after him like he's chasing after a fly ball, and then just goes and slices him. Like he just runs for like 30 feet and like just like when he
One
lands,
man
just gets him.
and one child.
I like this jacket too, man.
The most
Like
notorious
Cub's jacket right
masters
there
of
was
death
fucking awesome.
on the planet.
These guys are like Big Trouble in Little China guys, these 3.
Like father,
Whenever I see the claw thing, I always think of Enter the Dragon.
greatest team in the
You know what this is
history
starting to
of
make me
this
hyped for is Mortal Kombat, the new one coming
It's
out.
out this
Sure
Saturday, yeah,
is.
man, or this Friday.
Yeah, how the fuck does it come out so fast? That was
What?
weird.
nothing on earth
The new Mortal
can match
Kombat.
their influence.
They've been making it for years.
Have they? I guess I
Nothing on the
just
screen
wasn't paying
can
attention.
match this awesome spectacle
There's
There
your
we
cool
go.
moment.
Yes.
and sorcery.
I don't know that like you would fall down and like I don't believe that, but it also makes it cooler. You know
It
what
makes
I mean?
it way cooler. It makes it so much cooler. I want the
So
haircut
epic.
too. Everything about this movie is so cool to me.
Shogun assassin.
No, you don't want that haircut as a white dude. Like that's cultural appropriation.
I'm
Like, that's
saying
ridicule.
yes, I'm saying in theory, I really want that haircut because I think it looks very cool. I get the problems behind it. But yes, it's so cool that I aspire to have a haircut as cool as that. Is that better?
Sure, yes, I like that. Well, it's the same thing. It's like we talked about when we did Drive. It's like if you're cool enough and fit enough to wear the Drive jacket, you shouldn't be wearing the Drive jacket.
You wouldn't, just because it wouldn't be cool anymore, right? Like, that's
Yeah.
the whole point.
All right, time to play the Letterbox game. So, for reference sake, Mad Max Fury Road, one of the most popular films on Letterbox, has been seen by 789,000 people. 789
This is huge,
000.
though. This
Shogun
gotta be a
Assassin,
ton.
1980, directed by Robert Houston and Kenji Misumi, which I guess is the Americanized recutter and then the original director.
Yeah.
Starring, I can't get these names right. I'm not even going to try. How many people have seen Shogun Assassin?
I'm guessing a ton. This is like
Yeah.
a darling movie.
I'm gonna say like
so-
500,000, you know, like 500,000. or
Whoa.
Ooh, that's a little high. That's a little high. What?
Is it? Is it too high, guys? I mean,
Well,
it's been around a long.
compared to Fury Road, which is one of the most popular movies on Letterboxd, it's been seen
Yeah.
by slightly more than that.
Okay. I'll go a little lower. I'll say 100,000.
Okay.
That's right around where I was going. I'm gonna go 78,000.
You are both way too high.
Figured. years. I think like that's the problem. Like we're way more into this.
No, but
than
it's
I
like,
think.
you got the Tarantino connection. He mentions it in Kill Bill. You got to factor all that
Okay.
stuff in. That's what I was thinking.
I'm going down to 10,000.
35,000.
35 large, kick it a nickel.
Kick it a nickel. 35.
You're both still too high, but Mike's pretty close. One more guess.
Okay.
Really, this low?
I'm surprised that this is as low as it is.
Yeah, I'll go like 9,000.
I'm gonna I'm going down to 5,000.
74, 48, 74, 48. I've seen Shogun Assassin.
That's
Average
so
rating
low,
of
man.
3.7, most common a 4, then a 3.5, then a 3, then a 5, then a 4.5. How many people out of those 7,400 people have this in their top 4 films of all time?
I'm gonna say like 25.
I think that's a little high, but I was going to go like high based on how many people have seen it. I'm going to go like 6.
You are both too low.
Okay.
Too low.
Okay.
More than 25. Okay, so the people that love this do fucking love this movie.
I'm gonna bump it to 100. 100. Yeah.
Nah, 45.
In between, one more guess. In between 45 and 100.
66.
73.
59. 59 people have this in their top
59.
4.
That's a ton. Like based on how we play this game a lot, that's a whole lot. Like that proportion is huge.
It's weird. It seems like a lot of people have it in their top, but not a lot of people have seen it. If that,
Yep.
you know what I'm
Yep.
saying? Like I figured more people will have seen it and less people would have. I don't know.
I agree.
It's
I'm
that's
100%
weird.
with you, Mike. Yep.
So the other thing that I'm, the other letterbox game we're going to play is I go to one of these profiles and, we try to guess the top 4, and it was difficult. Like the people, it's weird. Like some people have like 4 random ass samurai movies in their top 4.
Okay.
Some people have just it was hard to find one. And I found Jack Murphy Jones at JAMURJO. So the beginning of each of his names, Jack Murphy Jones on Letterboxd. Did not review this movie. I don't know if he rated this movie, probably 5 stars, but he has Shogun Assassin as his number 4 favorite movie of all time. His top
All right.
3 are all gettable. His number 1, Joe, is one that we've had a couple times on here, and is a movie that you and I have covered, and is a sequel, a long after the fact sequel to a classic.
Blade Runner.
2049, correct.
Nice.
Mike, his second movie, this is going to be maybe subjective, but I think you'll agree with me. What is the movie that you and I, at least I, most regret not doing a better job
Raising
of?
Arizona.
Raising Arizona, number 2.
I almost got that one. I knew you were going to say that.
The backstory there is that Mike and I, we were like, that's really early in Cage's career, like 10 or 15 movies in or something. Mike and I are like, we're looking forward to the entire run of Cage Club because that's the first one I think that like we both knew that we were going to love, right? Like we're like, this
Yeah.
is
Right.
this is the first classic. And I'm watching like, I don't need to take notes. I know this whole movie. And then Mike and I get on the microphones and we both freeze. And our episode is 15 minutes long. We're just like,
Oh, man.
we're like, I don't know what to talk. Like, it's great, right? And Mike's like, yeah, it's great.
It still comes up. I think I was talking to Brian about that yesterday night.
It happens. Hey, man. I get you. I get the feels. It sucks because of the feels, not because it's... Yeah, I get it. I'm sorry, guys.
No, I
for
mean,
both
it's
of you.
fine. Like I
Yeah.
think we rewatched. I think we did a Cage Club revisited on it.
Yeah,
and,
I
like,
think we did a pretty good job of that. But like, if we ever did do like a Cage Club Gold or whatever, like that's the movie we go back and watch first. We just make sure we do a decent job.
it is literally my second favorite Cage movie. Like only Wild at Heart, and like I would watch it more often than I'd watch Wild at Heart because Wild at Heart's like fucked up and like difficult
It's
to
so
watch. But like
intense.
Raising Arizona is a perfect movie, and I'm like, yeah, I got nothing to say. I am so. I am so sorry.
It was like, how great was John Goodman? I know, wasn't he great? It's like,
And that chase, right? Yeah, cool chase. Holly Hunter, right?
Anyway.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Cage with the tattoo. Okay. Anyway, next week.
All right. Next week we got Never on Tuesday. Don't know what this is. I'm sure
Oh
it's going
my
to be
God.
terrible. And then that episode's probably longer, even though he's on screen for 2 minutes. So Jack Murphy Jones, number 1, Blade Runner 2049, number 2, Raising Arizona, number 4, Shogun Assassin, the number 3 movie. I don't know that we've had this in the top 4 before, but it is a very well-known movie that I think you would both say that you love, and it is by a top 4 all-star director, I would say. And this movie's from the 90s. So a director that Letterboxd loves, and a
Okay.
movie that I think that all 3 of us really like, and it's from the 90s.
Jurassic Park.
No, but
Ooh.
it fits all the things.
Okay. Okay.
I'm going to go Jaws.
Jaws
That's
is from the 70s, isn't it? It's okay.
God, I wish I wasn't choking on water. I was going to shame you there.
Mike did
From
it for you. It's
75.
okay. What
I
movie
didn't.
from the 90s? Is it Spielberg?
Nope.
So I'm thinking like, The Matrix, but that's 99, but it's not The Matrix. Is
It's
it?
No,
The
we've had
Matrix.
that before.
Yeah, we've had
Yeah, I
Matrix,
figured.
that's true.
This movie is not as big as those. I mean, it's still a great movie that I think was probably wildly popular, that I know a lot of people love, but it's not as important to the overall narrative
Interesting.
as Jurassic Park or The Matrix.
Or Jaws.
Or Jaws, the really big guy.
Give me something. You gotta give me something else. It's hard. There's a huge breadth here. I mean, like, I get that you're narrowing it down.
What
but, like,
director does Letterboxd love more than anybody else?
Tarantino?
No, but close. Sort of.
PTA?
No, but again, but close, sort of.
I don't know. I know they hate Christopher Nolan, even though I love him, but
This guy's still making movies.
Wes Anderson.
Nope.
Wes Anderson feels like a letterboxed.
Here's a hint. This guy has a movie nominated for Best Picture this year.
Is it David Fincher?
Mm-hmm.
What's the '90s one?
is it Fight Club?
Nope.
What?
Not as big, not as important.
Panic Room?
The Game?
Bigger than that, more important.
The Game is
All
my
right.
favorite.
Then the Seven.
7.
7. You're right. We don't get 7 a lot, and that.
I was
yeah,
gonna
you're
say
right.
7 first, but I wanted to kind of draw it out. I don't know.
Panic Room was good. I like Panic Room. Was such a good. It could shit on so much. Young Kristen Stewart, man. I know.
Yeah.
I know.
It's awesome.
I love Panic Room. Oh, okay.
Did you guys see Underwater with Kristen Stewart by any chance? I
Yes.
watched that like
Was
a
that the
lot.
crocodile one?
No,
No.
It's the deep sea lab. They're crawling through
It's the same thing. The
I don't
God,
know,
what was the
then maybe
crocodile
not.
one? The crocodile one was great though.
Creep or something. It had like a name like that.
Crawl.
Crawl. Creep.
Crawl was great.
I was close.
I know, but that's why I'm laughing. It's like so close.
I love that Radiohead song Crawl.
Yeah.
I'm a crawl, I'm a weirdo.
There's a whole South Park episode about that, Joey. About Scott Tenorman must die, and his favorite band is Radiohead. And he's like, and they're like, who's Radiohead? And they're like, they have that song, I'm a creep, I'm a weirdo. And they just butcher it the whole time. Yeah.
One show I will never watch in its entirety is South Park.
I
But
love
thank you,
South
Mike,
Park.
so much for joining us. Mike, we will be on your show. So this episode comes out the 27th. So this comes out on Tuesday. So next Monday, in less than a week from now, on the main feed, we will be on your show talking about the next Lone Wolf and Cub movie. So I'm very, very excited.
I'm very excited.
Yes, I cannot wait. That's gonna be awesome.
Same.
But between now and then, you have a Monsters That Made Us that comes out. What is this week's Monsters That
what
Made
is
Us
it?
for April 2021?
Oh, that's right. It is Werewolf of London.
Ooh.
Universal.
the song,
takes
yeah,
the-
I was gonna say.
Yeah, it's the movie the song was based on, I think, or the song the
Should
movie was
be.
based on.
I don't think I knew this was a Universal Monster movie.
Yeah,
Like, this is the first one
yeah.
that doesn't feel like a slam dunk obvious. Like, of course that is. Like, this is like, what?
I bring that up. Like,
I have a very important question for you
Mm-hmm.
about your show. Before the last episode, I think, or maybe it was before 2 episodes ago, a recent episode, your Twitter account was like, this is our most controversial episode yet. And there was not a note of controversy in the episode. What were you guys
Hype.
teasing on Twitter?
I have no idea what he was talking about. I'm sorry, I racked my brain. Like, the only thing we disagree, I think that was the Bride of Frankenstein episode, if I'm not mistaken, or something. And the only thing I think we disagreed on was that I liked the recasting of Frankenstein's wife, and he didn't. I don't know.
I don't know, because like I saw that on Twitter, and then I watched I listened to the episode like very intently, like, oh, this is the episode where they're gonna like, there's gonna be a rift, like an irreconcilable rift, or like they have some hot takes, and like the entire thing, like at one point you're like, I think this is a good movie, and then Dan's like, yeah, I think so too. I'm just like, wait, that's not like, it was like something like, I'm like, oh, this Mike said the thing that's gonna like, it's gonna rock the boat, and then Dan's like, yeah, I think I agree. It's like, wait, what? No, this can't. Where's the controversy?
I'm sorry about that, guys. I'm not in control of our Twitter. Maybe I should be.
No, it's awesome. I like the hype.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's a
But,
good sell. You got me curious. I'm sitting here listening to hear the hype, the controversy now myself. And Joey just told me there wasn't any. So that's
Oh,
good.
there is none. It's like, it's a show where like, I mean, it's sort of like this in where, they're watching exclusively
Movies you
movies
want.
that they love.
Yeah.
Almost exclusively good movies. And so it's just like, yeah, like there's nothing, like it's just like, yeah, another good one. And there's more analysis than that, but it's not like, oh, like, they have to trudge this one. It's just like, oh yeah, no, that's another classic movie that like inspired the next 100 years of cinema.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, okay.
I know it's kind of crazy. I mean, I will say this though, like, not that it's controversial or anything, but this might be Universal's first bump in the road as far as like, Stone Cold classics go. You know, not to
An
say that
SEC?
there's like, I mean,
Is
yeah,
this
as
going to
far
be
as
your
those-
most controversial episode ever?
I think each
This
new
episode
one
of Too
will
Fast,
be.
Too Forever is the most controversial episode of The Monsters That Made Us ever.
Yes.
Well put.
So the Werewolf of London is the name of the movie.
Yeah, Werewolf of London. Yeah. So that'll be out, and like, yeah, I didn't even know for a long time that the Wolfman was not their first foray into this subject matter. So a very cool episode, very controversial, highly controversial episode. I think that should be our catchphrase from now on.
It
like,
should
listen
be.
To the new
It
episode, it's
come on.
highly
The
controversial.
latest episode from the highly controversial duo behind the highly controversial Bride of Frankenstein, and just never explain it. Like it's funny. Like I don't think it was meant to be funny, and like maybe it was meant to be like. But I'm sure that in Dan's brain there was like I can't believe we got away with this, and like the whole time I'm like intently listening, just like what could it possibly be?
You're not the only one who brought that to my attention. I could only imagine what Dan is being asked at this very moment.
I think I asked Brian about it because I'm like what do you think this is about? He's like I don't know, and I don't get it.
Is
It's
the
fun.
show
It's very
over
funny.
already? Is it done before it even began?
Also, sometime soon, we will be back to Elvis. We're in like a little bit of a gauntlet with Too Fast. Like even though we're once a week, we got the 2 extra Lone Wolf and Cub movies.
Yeah.
In 2 weeks, I'm not going to explain what it is, but there's another bonus episode going to the main feed. But like, there's a little bit of run. So I think sometime in May, Mike, you and I will be back with Viva Pod Vegas. Now that
Nice.
you and I have both
Yeah.
been vaccinated.
Yep.
Oh, Mike's vaccinated
can-
too. Cool.
Return. Mike's got the
Yeah.
J&J baby. He's got,
You got the one and done.
Yeah, I had the Night of Hell on Earth, and
Did
then
you?
I was
Really?
fine. Oh my God, yeah. I got everything that they told you, like
Every
the
side
chills,
effect
the
at once?
shakes, pretty much one after the other.
Wait,
for
Mike, were
24
your-
hours.
Were your chills multiplying?
Oh, I was losing control.
I was gonna go with an Operation Hell on Earth reference instead of the Night of Earth, the Night of Hell or whatever. Night of Hell on Earth, Operation Hell on Earth. Do you remember that? You know what I'm talking about?
No. Oh
That's,
man.
that's from Mr. Show, where they
Oh.
want to like they have like a terroristic threat, and then like it just becomes them leaving a van parked out in the desert playing a song at like a reasonable volume. But that's their Operation Hell on Earth to like overthrow the U.S. government.
Oh man, I gotta rewatch those for sure. But yeah, this is the only place that it's gone public that I've got the shot. So yay.
I didn't mean to spill your beans.
No,
but,
hey, it's been like 2 weeks. So like whatever. It's open to everyone now.
I wasn't telling people I got vaccinated back in January. I mean, we told it on here, but I was just like, I feel weird that I got vaccinated so early, but I wasn't like going around,
I gotta
It's smart
say,
not to post your selfie because there's a lot of information in the selfie.
There's
that,
a
like, people
lot
can
of
steal.
people always forget this, man. It,
Mm-hmm.
like driver's licenses. I see so many of my friends post like, I got a new driver's license because I just moved, and I'm like, there's your address and driver's license number, and yes,
it's crazy now that if you can get it, get it. Get the shot. If you get the shot, one of my favorite lines. Get the shot. Travolta. Perfect. Get the shot. I got a spare dose. That's how I got it. It was a spare dose. So like,
Yep.
Very cool,
the
man.
pharmacy was like, "Can you get down here?" And I was like, "You bet your ass." And
that's
there
awesome,
we go.
dude.
Well, we have run out of people, I think, to vaccinate. So that's not
We've
a joke.
run
I
out of
wish that
people
was a joke.
that want a vaccination. We're very
Not
close.
great. Not great.
Not
but
great.
thank you, Mike. So today, this episode, obviously, Friday, Monsters That Made Us. Monday, our show.
The most
Your
controversial
show
episode
with us.
ever.
Most controversial episode of Third Time's a Charm. And then sometime
no.
after that,
It's not it's not the original Godfather 3 episode of Third Time's a Charm again, is it? I think that's my most controversial episode. Aside from
where you
the
guys are both like, I like that movie. No, because it's a good movie.
No, when the book club to that, I'll just say.
Oh, yes.
It's very
Yes.
controversial.
Yeah, and then so sometime, I don't know when, because it all depends, but sometime after you release yours, we'll have recorded it by then. It's just a matter of timing it right on the Patreon feed. But sometime in early May, the third episode will be out. So toofast2forever.com for that. But next week, Joe, we got Heather Antos back to close out the lap in, the main movies at least,
Yeah.
with Hobbs and Shaw, which there's no doubt, like this can be her favorite movie, right? Like of the nine.
don't fucking jinx it. That's why I'm saying I hope that she loves it as much as we think she will love it. I'm hopeful that she's gonna love it.
For all things Too Fast, Too Forever, you go to cageclub.me, facebook.com/TooFast2Forever, or at TooFast2Forever on Twitter and Instagram. Email us, family@cageclub.me. Check out our Patreon page at TooFast2Forever.com. You want to get in, join Dope D.
$1.
Get that $1 a month going.
You'll
Get
hear
the
the fourth
Patreon
one.
bonus episodes. Get the
Yeah.
4th movie of the series covered. 3rd episode, but 4th movie in a couple of weeks whenever we get to it. Plus, we got other stuff planned. And more bonus episodes. You can hear us and Brian do Too Fast, Too Forever After Dark.
I was gonna say, I'm gonna make Mike do a bunch of impressions on the 4th one behind the paywall. So
Oh,
can
yeah.
only get impressions.
I'm Joey Lewandowski,
I'm Joe too.
And I'm Mike Manzi.
and we'll tell you all about it
We see you